Texas Motor Speedway. For 5 years, one driver has ruled. For 5 years, it's been all about the 48. But all good things must come to an end, and the end just might be now.
What makes a dynasty? Sure, you can measure it in championships.
You're looking at the 5-time champion.
But there's something more. Something that keeps us watching. Wondering they could do it again. And again.
Unbelievable!
Because without fail, you know he's coming. But more importantly,
48 right on here. I see him underneath me.
they know he's coming.
You will follow him up through.
Love him or hate him. You gotta respect the grit, the fearlessness.
You're gonna eat their lunch. Nice.
How he handles the end game.
We did it, boys.
Until the final lap, Jimmy Johnson keeps digging.
Get that rhythm back. Let's roll.
The dynasty of the 48 team is under siege.
That 48, he just stumbled. I got his number. Tell him I'm sorry, but I've got to race him.
By 4 drivers looking to spark a historic run of their own.
All right, get after it.
A dynasty is not created overnight. It is a process. A late night up at dawn grind for the driver and his team.
We can do this.
This is about the extinction of hype. It's about push it to the red line desire. It's about, hey brother, I got your back. Not just this race, but every race.
That 14's been decent all day.
He better be worried, that's all I gotta say.
And that's how the next dynasty begins.
So who will it be? Mr. Consistency with top 10s in all but one chase race, the sponsor's dream, but never a cup champion. Or Smoke, twice a champion before, but this time he's got nothing to lose because he is chasing. 3 to go. This is chase race number 8. I say it's about time we get this thing started.
Ladies and gentlemen, please rise and remove your hats as the 3rd Mission Command Training Group, 75th Mission Command Training Division out of Fort Sill, Oklahoma, presents our nation's colors. And please remain standing as Dr. Roger Marsh from Texas Alliance Raceway Ministries offers today's invocation.
Heavenly Father, as we anticipate the excitement of today's Aaa Texas 500 at the Great American Speedway, we give you thanks for the tremendous freedoms that we have in the United States of America. And for all of our military personnel, both past and present, we ask you to watch over those who are continuing to serve. And now, Father, we ask you to watch over all who are here to compete in and enjoy today's race. In Jesus' name I pray it. Amen.
And here to perform our national anthem, please welcome Show Dog recording artist Trace Adkins.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the
Got a little excited there. It's such a cool sight. This track has been known to bite, but hey, we've learned one thing in this chase. So can the chase. We'll see how it unfolds next.
NASCAR Sprint Cup Series at Texas is brought to you by Sprint, proud sponsor of the Chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup. Silver.
We're back at Texas Motor Speedway, 11 minutes to the green flag. Race fans, check out NASCAR.com/RaceBuddy to watch coverage live from Texas. Follow your favorite drivers for free with 8 live camera views. Of course, everything is bigger in Texas. And Alan, as you do, you carry the 334 laps. Quick math, that's 501 miles here today.
And you better not forget about that one extra mile, or you might be a little shy on the fuel tank at the end of the day. Thanks to Cole. With champions Dale Jarrett and Andy Petrie, all the talk between Tony Stewart and Carl Edwards this week, right? You might think Tony was in control of this championship the way he's talking. Looking at this race today and these two. Who's in charge, Tony or Carl?
Well, Tony wants to be, but I think Carl Edwards is the man in charge. Not just because he's in front in the points, but he said all week, get me to Texas. This is my best racetrack. I know what we can do there, what we're capable of. He's been talking this. They've manufactured some great finishes. We haven't seen the speed for him to really apply a lot of pressure to these others. Is he going to do that to us here today and to his competitors? We'll see if he can make that happen. We're watching, but I think Carl's in control of this thing.
Yeah, if he can get his car to run, like you said, it hasn't had that dominant performance, even though he's leading the points. If he can keep that car running, yeah, he can dictate. But Tony Stewart, he threw down on these boys last week at Martinsville. He says, look, I'm going to take control of this thing, and if he can back it up, then he can control what happens from here.
Be very interesting to see who can apply pressure to the other as we roll through this 500 miles at Texas. 500 miles, actually 501, on a very carry that one, on a very fast and tricky track where there are plenty of pitfalls to be found. Tony Stewart's race back here in April is a good illustration of it. The trouble started early.
Yeah, you got to avoid trouble. Tony's going to have to avoid this kind of trouble today to stay in contention. You see this mistake coming out of the pits. Really, it's his pit crew and his spotter's responsibility to get him clear, to get out there, so that wasn't so much of a driver mistake.
Yeah, this next one's on the driver himself. Tony got himself in a good position here, got caught speeding on pit road. Can't have those mistakes if you want to win this championship.
Yeah, that was when they were in position to make the finish on one more tank of fuel, they thought. And even after the penalty for speeding, still ran out of fuel and lost some positions in the last lap. There are lots of pitfalls in 500 miles at this Texas track. Temperature normally a big story for this race that starts in the afternoon, ends after sunset under the lights. But weather conditions today, Andy, may make that less of a challenge for the crew chiefs.
Yeah, I like what we see now. We don't have a lot of sun load on the racetrack. We've got a lot of overcast clouds. So that's going to make the track a lot more consistent for the teams to negotiate as we go into the twilight of this race.
Yeah, and these drivers are glad they don't have to deal with those changing conditions. Just tell the crew chief what you need, make that happen.
And for the drivers that start off the race quickly, normally at Texas, that might mean trouble for them later in the day. If your driver starts fast today, he's going to finish fast tonight. Let's go trackside.
And now, race fans, for those most famous words in motorsports, here to give the command to start engines, please welcome your Grand Marshal, President of Aaa Texas, Bob Boutier.
Gentlemen, start your engine.
I got both you guys loud and clear. Check. I got you. I got you on one. Spike. Good luck, boys. I got you.
So the engines are fired and getting set to go. Just moments ago, down in the tri-oval grass, just before the command to start engines. Check this out. Rocket Man, we'll call him. Delivering a flag, the track's marketing slogan, no limits. And boy, as you've seen throughout Countdown, they've had quite a morning of pre-race activities here. All capped off by delivering that flag. That's cool. How about that?
I'd like to see Brad Daugherty do that, though.
Have to have a couple of those to lift the big fella, don't you think? The green flag waves when we come back.
NASCAR Sprint Cup Series at Texas is brought to you by Sprint, proud sponsor of the Chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup. Silver Star Ultra headlights from Sylvania. And the 2011 Ford F-150, built Ford tough.
Getting set to go in race 8 in the chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup. The field of 43 rolling on to the Texas Motor Speedway to begin their parade and pace laps before the beginning of this afternoon's 500-mile go. One car rolling onto the track with a driver not normally its regular driver is at 18. There is Michael McDowell aboard that machine. Of course, Kyle Busch not allowed to race by NASCAR officials in today's event. NASCAR Now lead reporter Marty Smith has been efforting to get an interview with or comment from Kyle Busch throughout the morning. Marty?
Had an interview we thought we had landed, Alan, but in the last minute here, they have chosen at Joe Gibbs Racing to decline that interview request. We haven't even seen Kyle come out yet to the pit box. We do know he is coming. Joe Gibbs did tell us that in the pre-race show, so we expect him any minute. But right now, he has chosen not to speak at this time, but we're going to keep on trying, Alan.
All right, Marty, thanks. And know that you will keep us posted if he so chooses to comment. So Michael McDowell aboard the 18 car today here in Texas. Look at the starting lineup for today's race across the top of your screen. Greg Biffle, 2005 winner here at Texas. On pole position, Biffle has led a lot of laps this season, but yet to go to victory lane. He's hoping to turn that number 1 starting spot into a number 1 finishing spot today. When we get back to row number 3, 5th position, you will see today's in-race reporter, Tony Stewart. By the way, with his rival for the title, Carl Edwards, just 1 spot behind him on the grid. Tony, the subject of our Gillette Pro Glide profile. Look at his stats before the chase this year in the opening 26 races and what he's done in the 7 in the championship.
Well, if you're not a believer by now, you should be.
Yeah,
he's getting it done.
So, Tony, from 5th starting position, our in-race reporter today, DJ.
Tony Stewart, Dale Jarrett, ESPN. You have a copy?
Yeah, ma'am.
Hey, Smoke, our first question comes from our mailbag, and Emily in Charlottesville, Virginia asks, you've mentioned things are going your way right now. What makes you feel that way as you try to chase down Carl Edwards in the standings?
Just the way we've been running. I mean, I think last week at Martinsville was a big tell of what this team's capable of. I mean, we overcame some really big obstacles last Sunday to get to that position to win that thing. So, this team's never given up. Darren Grubb's never given up. Our guys, everybody at Office Depot and Mobile One and Chevy. I mean, these guys they keep digging, and even when we thought we weren't good enough to do it, we find a way of digging deeper and getting the job done.
Speaking of that great win that you had last weekend, some fun words afterwards, kind of throwing things back at Carl there. You've talked some fun words all week. Does that gamesmanship continue on the track today?
Well, the good thing with Carl and I is, we can talk all we want. When we get on the racetrack, we both race each other with respect. And, the whole thing last week of telling him was that it's not going to be easy for him. I mean, nobody counted us as a factor going into this chase, and I wanted to make sure that he understood that we are. So I think he got that message loud and clear.
All right, Tony, you and Carl both have a great day. Thanks for talking with us. And he's going to talk to the man that's putting you up there, your crew chief, Darren Grubb.
Hey, Darren Grubb, Andy Petrie in the booth. You got us?
Got you.
Well, the boss man threw down on him last week, and you guys did a great job. But he can't do it by himself. Have you got your guys fired up to help him back it up on the track today?
Yeah, we do. Everybody's here for 334 laps and 48 points. That's the best we can do today, and we're going to try to get every bit of it.
All right, Darren. Well, good luck. Make good calls up there and keep Tony up front. Thanks for talking to us.
Thank you.
Darren Grubb. We will hear from him as well as Tony Stewart throughout the course of today's race. Stewart's car carrying one of our 8 high-definition onboard cameras, all 8 of our cameras with chase drivers or teams, including the top 7 in the standings, the car of the driver who is in 8th, but won't race today. Michael McDowell driving that car. 21 previous Cup races at Texas, 8 wins in those previous 21 races, represented by the guys carrying our onboard cameras today.
Good chance we could make number 9 here before this is over today.
Pretty good-looking group. Let's get some stories from pit road before the pace car rolls off in the green flag waves. We start with Dave Burns.
Alan, when you hear my voice today, I'll be talking about the guys on the pit road inside, the turn 4 into pit road, 5-time champion Jimmy Johnson, the always fast at 1.5 miles, Casey Kane, and Matt Kenseth. Matt said this week that this has been one of his most competitive chases ever, and yet last week, after a good finish was literally wrecked by Matt's own doing, he's 36 points from the top. He needs to not falter today if he wants to be this year's champion. Vince Welch?
Kevin Harvick has won the big races. He's won the Brickyard, the Daytona 500, the Coke 600, but never the Sprint Cup Series championship. He sits third in points, 21 points out. He says this is a make-or-break race for him here today. And crew chief Gil Martin says he'll take chances on pit road to get Harvick in position to cut that deficit. Jamie Little?
Well, following his win last week in Martinsville, Tony Stewart has never been more confident. He told me in Countdown he has the edge over Carl Edwards today and in the championship. He brought back the same car he won with at Chicago, and it's sporty. Dr. Jerry Punch?
Carl Edwards wants to win the Sprint Cup, but he also knows today is not a sprint race. It's a marathon here at Texas, 500 miles, and a marathon that can take its toll on man and machine, particularly engines. Carl's engine will turn 9,600 RPMs every lap he will let it. He's going to manage those RPMs and pick his, choose his battles in order to win that championship today. Carl is ready, and so is his team. Listen in.
All right, guys. Let's have a little bit of fun today. Appreciate everybody's hard work. We'll just stay in it till the end for every point we can get, no matter what, just like we've done the last 7 weeks.
And we are underway at Texas. Greg Biffle, David Reagan lead the field off tricky turn 2 for the first time. Biffle leads lap 1. They'll be screaming it better than 190 miles an hour off into that corner.
Well, Biffle wasn't going to be denied leading that first lap the way he drove off into turn 3 and took the lead from David Reagan.
Yeah, they were side by side going into turn 3. Biffle didn't lift at all until he got to the middle of the corner.
Carl Edwards, 99, trying to slide underneath Paul Menard. He does so. Tony Stewart running 4th, just ahead of him. Edwards in 5th. Quick mention, because of the driver change after qualifying, Michael McDowell went to the rear of the field in the 18 car. The 66 car that McDowell qualified, being driven by Josh Wise today, it went to the rear of the field. And David Ruderman in the 00 had to give up 6th starting spot. They had to change an engine in that car. He went to the back. That is just capping off what's been a difficult week for Ruderman, who was notified he'll not be back in that car next season earlier this week.
Comes Casey Kane, and you can see Paul Menard really get loose on the exit of turn 4. These exits of turn 2 and 4 here are 2 of the most critical parts of this racetrack, where the banking goes away from you to 5 degrees of straightaway. Really difficult.
Yeah, this track looks identical to Charlotte and Atlanta when you look at it, but the way they drive, it's like Dale said, that these banks they lay down quickly as you exit the corner, and so it makes the car drive a lot different here.
A couple of guys to keep an eye on today. The 9 car, Marcus Ambrose, and that 21, the red and white car, Trevor Bayne, the Daytona 500 winner. Those guys looked really good in practice.
Yeah, I talked to Trevor Bayne this morning in the garage area. Congratulate him on his Nationwide Series win yesterday. He said, we got a fast car today, too.
Yeah, he did a great job winning there yesterday, and we'll have to go just back to Charlotte. Even though we talked about the differences in the racetrack, Trevor Bayne ran extremely well until they had a fueling issue with that 21 car. Look for him to be good here all day long.
Brad Keselowski high in that 2 car. Kevin Harvick starting to slide a little closer to the front. 29 car started back in 21st position. And look at how quickly Kevin Harvick has gained some ground in some of the opening laps.
Yeah, Harvick worked extremely hard yesterday in practice, ran a lot of laps. He was using the middle to top groove. I think that we were going to see a lot of that in the first portion of this race until we had cloud cover all day. The track temp isn't nearly as high as they were expecting it to be here.
I still expect to see Harvick moving up on the way he is moving up this corner. I expect to see him move up as the tires wear down. And talked to Jimmy Johnson's team, some of the guys in the garage this morning. I said, who looks good? They said, besides us, they said that 29 car is who looks good.
Got a big run off turn 4 there. Harvick going to go by Keselowski with the 29 car up to 12th place.
If Harvick's going to make a move for this championship, he's going to have to start here today. He needs to be up towards the front in the top 3 at the end of 501 miles here.
Yeah,
we get to the end of this.
You carried the one.
Kevin Harvick swept into a wreck in the Talladega race a couple of weeks ago, dropped him from being virtually tied for the championship lead, neck and neck anyway up front, as we watch Jeff Gordon 24 and Juan Pablo Montoya in the 42 race here. And now Harvick has said he has to gain ground every week on Carl Edwards. He has to finish in front of him. He started behind him today. Gordon didn't start off toward the front of the pack. 24 car was back in 23rd place. And for Jeff, that is 17th. He's just picked up and working on 16th here on Kurt Busch in the 22.
Now, he was one of the better cars in happy hour we saw yesterday in practice, so I expect to see him move up pretty quickly.
Yeah, he'd like to get something going here as we see Tony Stewart taking the third, or trying to take this third spot away from David Reagan. Tough pass to make down the bottom, but he's going to be able to power by him now down the back straightaway.
You heard how little time Tony Stewart was off the gas from transitioning that car from the back straightaway into the banking of turn 3.
Yeah, it's one of the fun and difficult parts at the same time of this racetrack. There's enough grip there. You have to be extremely aggressive driving the race car here. That can lead to mistakes, but from the driver's standpoint, if you've got a car that you can do that with, this place is a lot of fun.
Edwards looking to stay right on Stewart's back bumper. Watch the speeds on our telemetry.
Hey, puts his hand out the window at 189 miles an hour. Saying thank you.
Oh,
while I chase this thing.
Yeah, you can see a little bit of looseness from Carl's car right there.
You can see just the minimum speed to the corner, still in the 160 mile an hour range. See this front straightaway a little longer than the back stretch. You see 195 miles an hour there.
And some busy hands again. So Tony Stewart up to third, Carl Edwards in fourth, behind Greg Biffle and Matt Kenseth. Biffle has led every lap so far, but we're just underway in the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series, Aaa Texas 500. Race 8 in the chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup is just underway at the very fast Texas Motor Speedway in Fort Worth. Greg Biffle in the 16 started on pole. He's led every lap so far. That's the distance from first to second. Matt Kenseth in the 17.
Matt slowly reeling in that 16 car.
Join Goodyear and NASCAR in helping support our troops. Visit Goodyear.com/support-our-troops to learn more. All right, in the early going, let's check in on what some drivers are saying back to their teams about the early part of their race. Dr. Jerry Punch on the leader.
Yeah, Greg Biffle is the leader, Alan, but man, he has his hands full here. Another track would change, but boy, he is hanging on. Listen in.
Real. Started off the left front really hard. All right, that more. Show your fans where they need to be. Just melted the rear tires off of it. All right, just take care of it here till we can get you tuned up.
And what he just said a moment ago is he is actually sliding. He's so loose, he's sliding all the way in and through the corners and worried about burning those rear tires off when he jumps back in the throttle. They want him to hang on, and right now he's just doing just that, hanging on as the leader. Alan?
All right, Doc, thanks.
You always know it's serious when the driver takes time to get that third real loose in there.
Real loose.
Yeah, you know that there's some issues. But Biffle's one of the best at hanging on to it and staying out front right now.
There's a big difference between real loose and real loose.
Yes, you take the time to get that last one in there. It tells you something about it. That's why he's moved up the racetrack some to try to so he doesn't have to turn the wheel as much. But you can see Matt Kenseth marching forward, Dave.
And DJ, he's down to that low line where all the speed is when your tires are at their best. Matt's balance this weekend, pretty good. It's been just a little bit free, that loose condition that Biffle talked about without all the reels in front of it. But handling generally very good for the 17. They were very confident as a team when I talked to them this morning about their chances today. No report yet from the driver on the initial laps.
Well, no news is good news a lot of times where that's concerned.
You see, Matt Kenseth up here this early in the race makes me wonder if he set his clock back. He might think he's an hour still ahead here. He's moving forward fast.
Now, that are a couple of guys at the front of the pack. Car in the apron there is the 37, I believe. That's Mike Skinner, who is likely headed for the garage and only planning on running a few laps in this race. Going to have to go a ways back before you find Brad Keselowski, who has run so well in this second half of the season and one of the contenders for this championship. That Blue 2 car started in 8th position, but he's fallen back to 14th and really working the high side of this racetrack.
I wouldn't count him out yet. This team's been so good at getting their car right in the latter part of the race. You know, even last week they didn't have a very good middle of the race, but finished really strong. I don't know what they're dealing with right now, Doc, but it looks like he's trying to come back forward.
He really is, Andy. You know, and I talked to him before he climbed in the car. I said, I don't know why we struggle so much here. My average finish here is 29th, worst of all the chasers. And right now, he said, you know, it's somewhat of an enigma. He said we're tight on entry, yet we're loose when we get back in the throttle coming off. So they've got some things to think about here early on as the track's changing and the sun now coming out and starting to heat up. So maybe the problems will be even worse here in the next half hour or so.
Doc, thanks. It'll be interesting to see. You know, Kevin Harvick had moved up some spots in the opening run. Now here's Keselowski going back by him as we get a little deeper into this opening run of the race.
Yeah, a few of those cars that Kevin Harvick had passed are now starting to go back by us. So apparently Kevin's finding some issues with the racetrack right now too. But we are seeing more sun on the track now as Matt Kenseth tries to take the lead away for the first time from Greg Biffle here today.
Back in the April race here at Texas, Matt Kenseth led almost half the race in winning in that 17 car. Now, after an accident at Martinsville last Sunday, he finds himself with a deficit in the championship, needing every point he can. And as it works in NASCAR, when you lead a lap, any lap in the race, you get one bonus point toward the title. Matt just collected one.
Yeah, and he knows maximum points is what he has to have here. And pretty much at least in 2 of these 3 races, I think, to have any chance, unless Carl and Tony have some big issue along the way.
Yeah, that Carl Edwards, you see, just showed up in the picture. Had the fastest lap on the track last lap. And a 30.89. That's the only one in the 32nd bracket of the leaders.
These 4 right here have just separated themselves from the rest of the field right now. You can see Carl wanting to get on the bumper at Tony.
He was right there, wasn't he?
Yeah, you can't talk to him right now, but that's sending a message his way.
That was Jeff Bodine in that 36 car that the leaders just put a lap down. Some cars going to the garage in the early going. J.J. Yaley, Joe Nemechek, Josh Wise has gone to the garage as well. There's the gap that checked out between that front 4 and the second group. Here's kind of the third group on the racetrack. Jimmy Johnson, 48. Marcos Ambrose, 9. Paul Menard, 27. And Clint Boyer in the 33. I expect to see Jimmy Johnson up front in the top 5 somewhere as this race goes on and as it draws toward its conclusion.
Yeah, I think typically we see this 48 car in a situation where the race is going to go from daylight to dark, that their car is set up more for the racetrack as it cools down, gets some more grip, and picks up speed.
Yeah, I'm expecting more than that, actually, Alan. I expect him to be contending for this win before the day's out.
The 5-time consecutive champ is running right now in 8th spot, Dave.
And talking with his crew chief, Chad Canales, this morning, Chad said our performance is pretty good. You know, in years past, as it looks like he's going to get challenged again on the outside by Menard, in years past, we were very guarded about our race car. Whoa, look at Ambrose taking the middle there. We were guarded and didn't try a lot of things. This weekend, we've kind of been all over the map trying some new things and finally landed on basically a standard setup, but that doesn't look good at all. I guess Jimmy just kind of got out of their way, guys.
Yeah, something to be followed up on there. He just gave up 3 spots. Did Jimmy Johnson.
Well, it was getting pretty hot and heavy right there. You see him running 3 wide, a couple of laps there.
Yeah, if you have a loose race car, which I would think maybe that's the case with Jimmy Johnson, as we have some the track temp heating up just a little bit. No sense in putting yourself in a bad position there. You've got 3 cars wanting to really race hard right now. See Regan Smith taking 5th away from David Reagan.
The Southern 500 winner from Darlington, back Mother's Day weekend. Actually, a couple of guys have got first wins this year, Smith and David Reagan. And Regan Smith talking about how he really wants to find consistency and strength on this type of racetrack, the 1.5 miles. So I don't know what that was all about.
Well, what's happening is that 2-car Keselowski is running that top lane both ends, and he's getting a ton of momentum off the corner. And so he had just closed up using that straightaway speed right on the back bumper of Jimmy. Now Jimmy yields it.
Just heard that radio. I believe that was Brad Keselowski saying, "Tell him thank you and I'm sorry about that."
Yeah, he caught him a little quicker than he anticipated. I think he was timing it to go high when he got to the corner.
That's right. He was expecting Jimmy to move down to the inside of the racetrack where he'd been running a little bit sooner than what Jimmy did, and that's what created that situation. But 2 professionals, that's the way you handle situations.
Watch the nose of the 2-car when he was behind Jimmy Johnson. See if there was something on the grill that he might not have been trying to use that 48 to remove.
And this is the way to do it, if that's what he was trying.
inconclusive. So Keselowski running in 11th. Matt Kenseth is out in front. Second leader of today's NASCAR Sprint Cup Series race at the Texas Motor Speedway.
Back at Texas Motor Speedway, we are 38 laps into this race. Matt Kenseth is out front ahead of his teammate Greg Biffle. The points leader is back and forth. That, of course, is Carl Edwards. Let's take an inside look at what's happening in the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series, brought to you by Sprint. This is a very fast racetrack, and back in 2005, Carl Edwards, his average speed here was 151.055 miles an hour. Right now, take a look at Greg Biffle, 186.935. NASCAR fans voted at sprint.com/speed on the driver they wanted us to go in car with, and Matt Kenseth was the top choice. So let's go on board now via the Evo Cam and listen in. Get closer to NASCAR Sprint Cup Series with unlimited access to highlights, news, and more. Learn more at sprint.com/speed. On board right now with the leader. It's an opportunity to talk about how fast these guys are running because they are so close.
They are really close. And Matt Kenseth up there leading this race right now. Not a big surprise to me, Brad, because he won over there in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Yeah.
Had a dominant car at Charlotte. The track, a mile and a half, just like this mile and a half. Not exactly the same track, but very close.
Yeah, you're exactly right. You're talking about the speeds. I mean, this just goes to show how important it's going to be to have your pit stops down and get off pit road, because they're going to be together all day long.
Take a look at these speeds at the line right here, guys. I've been looking at the field at first all the way down to 28th within a tenth of a second. This is the tightest field I've seen all year long. Just goes to show you how close the competition really is.
Extra emphasis on pit stops, which are underway right now. The sixth is in of David Reagan, Jamie Little.
Getting off sequence here for David Reagan, who started second today. He slipped back to sixth, saying he's snappy, loose. The sun is throwing a lot of these teams for a loop. They're going down on the track bar, air pressure, and 4 tires, and they'll fill it up. Let's go back upstairs to Alan.
Jamie, thanks. And the way it's going to work in this race, once the first leader makes a move to pit road, there's going to be a big charge to follow. And look at the entrance to the pit lane. Dave?
There is Casey Kane. His car was just a little bit free and then really loose in as the run went on. They'll make a track bar adjustment down to half around on that. Vince?
The 9 car of Marcus Ambrose. Ambrose says loose in and loose off, tight in the middle. We've heard that all up and down pit road. 4 tires and fuel. Dave?
Matt Kenseth, the leader since lap 24, will get a track bar adjustment. He said, tighten me up just a little bit free going into turn 3. It'll be full of Sunoco fuel as well. 4 fresh Goodyear tires for Matt Kenseth. Dark.
4,000 RPMs, 45 miles an hour. Here's your pole sitter and leader, Greg Biffle. You heard him say how loose the car was all the way through the corners. 1.5 rounds on the track bar. Biffle, 4 tires, topping off with Sunoco fuel. Now further up pit road as they work on his car, his teammate, the 99, also coming in. 4 tires, 1.5 rounds down on the track bar there. It's because Edwards was very, very loose. Guys?
Tony Stewart, the leader, has stayed out and led now a couple of laps to gain a bonus point toward that championship. There is Michael McDowell in, Vince.
Free in, that's the big problem. Tight in the center and free off as well, but he says it's on the splitter on turn 1, so they made some slight changes trying to get him more comfortable.
All right, Vince, and now Tony Stewart gives up the lead, comes to pit road. There's Mark Martin in the 5. Vince?
Again, loose. Boy, we're hearing this all up and down pit lane today, guys. Very free in and free off, and the sunshine having an effect, an air pressure adjustment and 4 tires for Martin. Jamie?
And Tony Stewart, who came in just 8 points down from the leader, Carl Edwards, says he's loose off, but the center is worse than the exit. They're going to make a wedge adjustment. 4 tires, fill them up with Sunoco fuel, and he did get that extra bonus point, Doc.
Ryan Newman coming in. He was the leader. Now he is on pit road. Ryan says the car is so loose in, I just simply can't drive the car in. He said, I'm good from the middle off. They're going to make an air pressure change, 4 tires, and now a chassis change. They will make a track bar adjustment on the left side. Jamie.
And the 38 making his way down. You saw the 39 down and away. They're working on the right-hand side. They're going down on the track bar. They'll fill it up. You see the wrench in the rear window. Make that chassis adjustment. Travis Kvapil, the clock ticks away. They work on the left-hand side. Wipe the grill. That's big here. A lot of trash out on the racetrack. He's down and away. 16.6 seconds for Travis Kvapil.
All right, Jamie, thanks. So there's Matt Kenseth, who has held the lead through the exchange of pit stops. He was 1.5 seconds ahead of Biffle. Now he's 2.1 seconds ahead of Biffle. Now, here's Carl Edwards. Remember, Tony Stewart was just in front of him before the pit stops? Not anymore.
Yeah, he stayed out 2 extra laps, Tony did, and that just really hurt him on this track position. Even though he probably had a pretty good pit stop, you can see he's lost a couple of seconds of track time by staying out there on the track with one tire.
But he did it early in the race, got the bonus point toward the championship, which kind of puts the pressure on Edwards to have to find a way to get that bonus point later in the day.
Jack Roush got to be happy. Top 4.
Race fans, check out NASCAR.com/RaceBuddy to watch coverage live from Texas today. Follow your favorite drivers for free with 8 live camera views. That could be a camera where you see sparks and things come flying by off tricky turn 2 later on in the day. We are pretty early in the going in today's 501-mile NASCAR Sprint Cup Series race here in Texas. Closing in on 100 miles, Matt Kenseth, one of 3 different drivers that have led Kenseth holding the lead through this last green flag round of pit stops. Ryan Newman on pit road from 20th position before the stops, but Doc, he had to come back in a second time.
Yeah, 4 laps later, he went back out and said, well, I have a vibration, guys, and it's getting worse. He said, you think it's a loose wheel? He said, gotta be. And at these speeds where they're averaging almost 190-plus miles an hour entering the corner, he came back on the pit road, and now they changed 4 tires and have gone back out. The crew back here surveying behind the wall. They don't see right now where a wheel was loose, but they're checking the wheel itself as far as the lug nut area, checking the wheel itself, and also looking at the replay of the pit stop, which they videotape, see if they can see a possible problem that occurred a moment ago, but an unscheduled stop for the 39 car.
All right, Doc, thanks. And there, a look at the crew looking over those tires, and you saw graphically a minute ago on the screen, Ryan Newman is a couple of laps down now and back in 36th position. So Matt Kenseth, since the pit stop, he had a 1.4 second lead before the stops began. Came off of pit road with a 2.1 second lead over Greg Biffle and has since stretched this lead out to 4.6 seconds over second place. And Biffle being challenged for second place there by the championship leader and his teammate Carl Edwards.
They made an adjustment on that 99 car last pit stop. It's definitely making a difference.
And they need to make an adjustment on that 16 car, it looks like.
Yeah, they're still fighting that. But we've had a lot more sun on this racetrack than what we anticipated. Cloud cover throughout the day, and I think probably a lot of these teams anticipated. They were thinking they might, as we talked and you mentioned, Andy, in the opening, kind of a seamless transition from the afternoon with the cloud cover into the night, but that's not what they're getting right now.
Yeah, it might not be so seamless when we see the lights come on later.
So that's second and third. You see just in front of Edwards, that 18 car, Michael McDowell, has gone a lap down in the exchange of the green flag pit stops. Update on the 18 from Vince.
Well, Michael McDowell, as you mentioned, in that 18 car, one of the big stories of the day, the big story of the weekend with Kyle Busch being parked by NASCAR. Busch is here at the racetrack. In fact, he is sitting on top of the pit box near crew chief Dave Rogers, but no radio communication between Busch and McDowell at this point. In fact, McDowell and Dave Rogers trying to get a handle on this race car that right now McDowell says just doesn't feel like it's in the track the way it needs to be. So they made some slight air pressure adjustments to try to help him out with the handling, battling the sun as many of the teams are, as it has come out as well. You've got to imagine how difficult it must be for Kyle Busch to sit up there and watch somebody else drive his race car.
Yeah, Vince, and that's exactly the question I was going to pose to Dale is people want to talk about the severity of the punishment for NASCAR, but for a race driver, can there be anything more harsh than sitting there watching somebody else drive your car?
I can't imagine. I never had to really go through something like that, but that has to be the worst. Yeah, no, whatever penalty they impose, there's nothing worse than seeing the car that you've had a lot of success with, somebody else out there driving it. So, very gut-wrenching day for Kyle Busch, I'm quite certain.
So McDowell soldiering on in that 18 car, and as you heard Vince's report, they're struggling to get the car down into the racetrack to his satisfaction and get the grip that he wants at these terrific speeds here in Texas. Now, somebody who had qualified well, starting in 6th position, David Ruderman, but had to give up that starting position and go to the back of the field because the team had to change engines. NASCAR has a 1 engine per weekend rule designed to keep the teams from having these special, lightweight, super tricked up qualifying engines that they'd spend a ton of money on. But when you have to change an engine, you start in the back. See, Ruderman has picked up 19 spots since the start.
Well, he's really been running well. I've seen him pass cars on the top side, middle part of the racetrack, on the bottom if he needed to go there. So really doing really well in this car, that he was informed that he would not be driving next year. But what's David Ruderman saying about his car, Dave?
Well, I was going to say, DJ, all of that passing of cars with a car that he is describing as evil loose in. Wants to spin out on him when he gets into the corner. And I talked to him at driver introductions. There's not a guy more saddened by what happened about him being dismissed from this ride at the end of this year than David Ruderman right here. And for all you fans who want to know what was that caused that engine to break, go home and throw away all your 3/4 inch sockets in your socket wrench set. Somebody left one of those on the track, went right through the radiator, and killed the engine on the 00. That's why they had to start at the rear. 3/4 inch, Alan.
Ouch.
That's probably somebody else's. Another team left one under the hood and it found its way through the radiator of that 00. Here comes Tony.
Stewart trying to get 4th from David Reagan. Remember, Stewart gave up a couple of spots on that first round of pit stops to stay out and lead a lap to collect the bonus point for the championship. And still side by side.
Yeah, it's so tough to make that pass down the bottom right now. Everybody fighting for some grip, and as we've said, it makes it more difficult. It looks like Tony's going to make that happen. Through turns 3 and 4 here now.
We'll see. Lap traffic there. That's his teammate, Ryan Newman. And Reagan going to rally back.
You can see Tony really fighting the wheel. He lost some momentum off of turn 4. That allowed Reagan get back to his outside.
Boy, Tony really got through the middle of the corner that time. Excellent.
Pretty sure he'll get a break from that car right there that he's passing.
Because he owns it. One of the owners, yeah. So Stewart up to 4th, while his rival for the championship at the moment, Carl Edwards, runs in 2nd. Dave Blaney has been in and out of the garage area, has just returned to the track 13 laps down. Matt Kenseth has been out in front for 40 of the 66 laps in this race. We're just hitting 100 miles today in the Aaa Texas 500. Tuesday night, ESPN Films explores the history of the Alabama-Auburn rivalry that has reached new heights after each school's won a national championship and had a Heisman Trophy winner. But just as the bad blood between its fans and communities reached the pinnacle, they needed each other most to recover from a natural disaster. ESPN Films Roll Tide War Eagle, Tuesday, 8 Eastern, presented by Buick. Should be fascinating. Matt Kenseth in the lead here at Texas by 4 seconds over Carl Edwards. Kenseth out front for 46 of the 72 laps so far, trying to get back in contention for this championship with perhaps another win at this track. Let's go up to speed and check in on some of these front runners. On patrol in the leader's pit is Dave Burns.
Those lap numbers you mentioned, Alan, that's about half the race so far, and that's what he did here in the spring. Matt led a half the laps to win the 334-lap event here in April. It's the same car. It's basically the same setup. The crew told me they just basically changed it for the weekend based on track conditions, but he's got something he's familiar with, and he's using it. Doc?
Back behind him, Carl Edwards, our points leader, a 3-time winner here at Texas Motor Speedway. Couldn't wait to get here, couldn't wait to leave Martinsville, couldn't wait to get to Texas. But right now, early on, he's had a bit of an issue here in terms of handling. Listen in.
Staying just about 230, 235 on the water.
Boy, that's perfect. Perfect. You copy me on the right front tire?
Yeah, you're saying we can put more in it later.
We're maxed out on right front tire, but we got a couple little blisters on the inside edge.
How's the right rear look?
Rears look fine, bud. Rears look fine. Was a full fuel run.
So a couple of blisters on the edge of the front tire. They're a little bit of a concern, but right now Carl's saying the car is loose everywhere, but primarily loose off of turn 2. Jamie.
It has been a good weekend for Tony Stewart and this 14 team. After final practice yesterday, Tony said the balance was the best it had been all weekend. Darian Grubb, his crew chief, told me this morning they built in a lot of adjustability, knowing it was going to be a lot warmer today. So they indeed adjusted on that car, and their one and only pit stop today made a wedge adjustment. Tony just now said the car is much better through the center and exit. Doc?
Hard to believe that Greg Biffle is holding on to a fourth position as bad as his car is driving. We heard us talk about how Biffle was so loose before the pit stop. 1.5 rounds on a track bar air pressure. And right now Greg said, and I quote, "I can hardly drive it, guys. We've got to do something." But they are planning on maybe pitting as early as lap 86 to put a rubber in the left rear and a track bar adjustment. Jamie.
And David Reagan was the first to pit earlier today. Now, this has been a great track for David, both in the Nationwide Series and here in the Sprint Cup Series. And he told me, this is where we need to shine. This is our racetrack. So far today, he was loose, but they had a solid pit stop. He's still a little bit loose, having a hard time running the bottom line where he wants to be. Vince?
Well, there's no question Marcus Ambrose's strength is on the road course, but there's some ovals in which he's very good as well, and this is one of them. He was 6th here in April, had a handful there coming off the corner. 6th right now as well. He says it's loose in and loose off, as you just saw. Dave?
As much as we've heard the word loose this weekend, I talked to the crew chief for the 4 car of Casey Kane, Kenny Francis, this morning. I said, your driver likes a loose race car. You should be in good shape. He goes, you know what? He gets more credit for that than he's really due. He said he just likes the front end to work really well. Well, it hasn't been working that great. It's been very loose for Casey Kane. I just looked up to Kenny Francis. He gave me the word sideways. Still not good conditions for the 4 car. Doc?
This place has not been very kind to Jeff Gordon. He did not finish either race here a year ago, involved in crashes in both of them. And in the springtime, ran out of fuel here in the final lap and got a dismal 23rd place finish. Now, Alan Gustafson told me before the race today, we're not bullet fast, but we're fairly consistent. We're not going to have a lot of speed early in the run, but we think we can hang on a long time. And certainly right now, they're having an issue with a little bit of tightness on landing in turn 1.
All right, Doc, thanks. So updates on the top 8 so far. 9th position is Clint Boyer in the 33 car. 10th is Jimmy Johnson in the 48. There they are, with Regan Smith just behind them in the 11th spot in the 78 car. Caution free so far, already getting close to another round of green flag pit stops. There'll be a lot of action on the pit lane when we come back to the Texas Motor Speedway in a minute. Matt Kenseth continues to lead here at Texas Motor Speedway. The charge to pit road has begun, Dave.
Started really loose off and really tight in. It's heading in the more loose direction. They're going to add air pressure to the right front tire, remove air pressure from the right rear. Hope that helps. Kurt Busch. Vince?
The 9 car, Marcus Ambrose, in for his second stop. It's a 4-tire change. They're going to make an air pressure adjustment, just trying to get that car in the track a little bit more for Marcus Ambrose. Good run so far, though.
Clint Boyer, Casey Kane, Jamie McMurray, David Ruderman, Brad Keselowski, Dale Earnhardt Jr., the rush to pit road. There's Keselowski leaving after his service. Watching the leader, Matt Kenseth, approaching the pit entry. And going by another time. There's David Reagan. Had just regained a spot, had passed Greg Biffle a minute ago. Speaking of Biffle, Doc?
Greg Biffle, rubber in the left rear, 2 rounds down on the track bar, trying somehow to tighten up our pole center. Left side tires going on. Got to top it off with Sunoco fuel. He's down and away. Jamie.
And Tony Stewart gets the countdown. The boys go around to the right side. Last stop was great. Tony said, you guys really helped me turn better. Let's just work on the center. That's where we need to focus. 4 tires of fuel, Dave.
During this run, Chad Canals told Jimmy Johnson, you know, with this tire pressure, you should be running 3/10 faster. They're going to make a big swing this time. Matt Kenseth, your leader on the right. He has been complaining that it's getting a little bit more snug in the center of the corner. So air pressure adjustment for Matt Kenseth, full of Sunoco fuel, and he is on his way.
Carl Edwards has not pitted yet. He has just led a lap to even up that bonus point battle with Tony Stewart in the championship. And here comes Edwards to the pit entry now after collecting that bonus point.
Yeah, we have to see how much that cost him to stay out there, though. We saw what it cost Tony Stewart the last time. Tony wanted the first on pit road this time.
Edwards one of the last to pit road. In this round of stops, a little drink. Get rid of the drink bottle. and get ready for the crew to go to work. Doc?
And Bob Osborne said, hey, Carl, we're going to put one round of wager. Don't let us get you too tight. Carl said, there's no risk in that happening, buddy. I am so loose. I'm sideways out here. So one round of weight going in right now. Left rear, 4 tires, topping out Sunoco fuel. That point, very valuable right now. Carl Edwards down and away. Second stop of the day.
All right, Doc, thanks. So just as we did last time, seeing how much staying out the extra couple of laps cost Tony Stewart, we'll see what it's going to cost Carl Edwards this time by staying out the extra lap after Stewart pitted. Matt Kenseth has gone by and reassumed lead in this race. Joey Logano in that 20 car already gone a lap down in the early going of this race. Been a tough day for that Gibbs Racing entry.
Yeah, it just looked like he can't get a grip or a handle on things. It looks like his car is just extremely loose.
Jimmy Johnson with a little hiccup on pit road. Let's see.
He ran over the air hose with the front tire. It's cost him quite a bit. It was a 16.9 second 4-tire stop.
I'm going to say that's more the responsibility of the tire changer there.
Yeah, it is. The tire changer is supposed to make sure that hose is clear, giving it kind of a wide arc as he comes in to change the tire.
Jimmy Johnson, as you see, running in 12th position. Matt Kenseth has reassumed the top spot here at Texas Motor Speedway as we work toward 150 miles.
Back at Texas Motor Speedway, it is chase race number 8. But if you're looking for one of the major stars in Kyle Busch, you won't find him in the track today due to that incident Friday.
I ended up losing my cool.
Kyle Busch will not be participating today or tomorrow. The actions we have already taken are some of the most severe in the sport.
He came and asked me, could I sit on the pit box? He said, I'd like to be there with the team.
And Kyle Busch is on the pit box watching his 18 car on the track today, being driven by Michael McDowell. And there is Kyle Busch. McDowell, if you're wondering where he is on the track, is in 31st, 1 lap down. But for Kyle to sit there and watch that, Rusty, as a driver, how difficult is this day for him?
Well, as a driver, Nicole, it's just horrible. I mean, it's just, you didn't expect this would happen as a driver. You thought everything was fine, and then you get yourself in incidents, and now you're out of the car, and you're watching your car run really bad. It's all the way down in the 31st position. But not only that car, the whole Joe Gibbs Racing stable is struggling today. 26th for the 11 car, Denny Hamlin. 27th for the other car, Joey Logano of number 20. And a lot of these guys really rely on Kyle Busch's feedback. All the teams do. They don't have that really good feedback right now, and everybody is suffering. It's got to be a miserable day for him to be sitting on that pick box and knowing he's not in that car.
Yeah, right now, Brad, Denny Hamlin, who is the last car on the lead lap, is the only one of those 3 cars that's actually on the lead lap.
Well, I think Rusty hit on it. It looks like they've all missed on the setups, obviously, and with this tire, there's a little bit of trying to adjust to that and making the right guesses. And Kyle Busch is the onboard computer. We've seen him time and time again be that guy on the camera talking about what's going on in that race car and giving great feedback. So they've all missed it today thus far.
And back to Michael McDowell, we talked a little bit in the Countdown show about how this could be an opportunity day for him to get into some good equipment and prove his worth. Not a good opportunity for him as we're watching now.
What a bad day for Michael McDowell to get in the car. Generally, this would be a fantastic opportunity, but all these Joe Gibbs cars are running bad today, and so sometimes you get a good one, sometimes you got a bad one, and this is not a good opportunity for McDowell today.
Vince, what more do you have on that car?
Well, I'll tell you what, I can tell you as miserable as Kyle must be on the on the bench, Michael McDowell isn't all that much more pleasant in the car. That car is a handful right now. He says it's a little better on entry after that last adjustment, but terribly tight through the middle and really pushing up on exit. And he's trying different lines, but he just can't find anything that works. You can hear the frustration coming through, but Dave Rogers on the radio trying to keep him calm. Kyle hasn't communicated on the radio that we've heard as of yet.
And just about everyone has had an opinion on this situation, and we asked you, Sports Nation, if you were Joe Gibbs, what would you do? Would you fire Kyle Busch? 27,000 of you chimed in, and 55% of you say, yes, fire Kyle Busch.
Wow.
Very interesting.
Wow, that is very interesting. And Going back to Michael McDowell one more time, too, this is not something easy to do. I don't care if the car was handling extremely well. To jump in a Cup car, even though he has a lot of experience and not have worked with these guys before and go out and perform well, that's a very tall task.
And Alan, something else to keep in mind, it's pretty difficult to fix a car when you haven't had any cautions.
We have surpassed the record already for most consecutive green flag laps run to start a race here at Texas Motor Speedway in the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series. And Matt Kenseth has led most of them so far, past 150 miles. Here about to put Trevor Bayne a lap down. That 21 car in 26th position. Remember, he ran up in the start of the race toward the front. Now he's really struggling.
Yeah, I've seen him be sideways a couple of times, so car's extremely loose for Trevor Bayne. He's just trying to hold on. He's needing one of those cautions to try to help this thing out. Jamie, what's he saying?
Well, they've been trying to work on this car, and the last thing he said, just tight through the center. A lot different than yesterday. He was so happy this morning, finally got that first elusive nationwide victory, and he said this car actually had the same balance. So he was very optimistic coming into today, but now with the sun being out so much warmer, the handling has gone away. They're working on it, but now he just went a lap down.
All right, Jamie, thanks. So Bayne back in 26th position. See the cars running up into the sunshine down on the banking of turns 3 and 4. We talked about how the forecast was for the day to be overcast with a slight chance of a shower. Temperature's gone up since the race started. Crew chief?
Yeah, that's not what we expected, and I think it caught quite a few teams by surprise. Looks like Trevor Bayne's team for sure, but we've heard that from a lot of teams, how loose their cars are. What was it that Biffle said? Real loose.
He got the third one in.
We're talking about this 107 laps that we've run now without a car. Could this race today be any more different than what we saw at the start of last week on that half-mile racetrack? It's just amazing. You give these guys some room and how difficult and fast this place is.
Carl Edwards running second, Doc.
And we're talking about how much warmer it is today than it's been all weekend. And the Goodyear engineers have been here in his pits looking at tires. Listen to the radio here just a few minutes ago.
Well, it's still one little spot on that right front. It's better than the last run. Still one little spot.
Tim, or anybody else having trouble with that?
Yes, sir. A lot of guys are, bud.
Now, a Goodyear engineer just told me there are several, just a few that are having the same situation. He relates it to the fact that the temperature is higher than they've been all weekend, and also several of these guys have been very loose, sliding that right front tire in the corner, and they're hoping that that wedge adjustment on the 99 will take care of that. Still a little bit of an issue, though, to worry about for our points leader.
All right, Doc, thanks. Edwards running in second, Tony Stewart running third. Brad Keselowski, one of the other drivers in the championship, running right now in 9th position. He and Casey Kane, 2 and 4, racing for that spot.
Well, a big turnaround. We saw this 2-car going backwards at the start of this race before that first pit stop was ever made. He started making a charge back forward. Now he's raced back into the top 10.
Yeah, I'm not a bit surprised. The way this team has executed this year, it doesn't surprise me at all that they've been able to turn that around pretty quick today.
Brad started today 27 points off the lead in his bid for the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series Championship. Remember, 1 point per position. He fell back as low as 15th on lap 18 and now has worked his way back up to the 9th position. Caution free very quickly, closing in on halfway. We're not caution free anymore. Yellow flag is out. Debris off of turn number 2, I believe I just heard NASCAR say. And a welcome sight for a lot of these teams.
Oh, yeah.
And drivers. This racetrack being so fast, Dale, it very physically demanding on the drivers because of the speed. And when you don't get that caution, boy, what a challenge to keep pushing.
Yeah, it really is. It's a rough racetrack. We've seen these drivers bouncing around inside the cars. You're going extremely fast. It's just very difficult physically and mentally to start a race like this, especially when your car isn't very good.
But a chance to catch your breath, give the crew some feedback on the car, and to get the crew ready to go to work, which they'll do in just a minute. The AT&T Fastest Pit Crew of the Year award is determined by the winner of each race, the fastest pit time, and you, the fans, vote. Text the car number to 234567 for your pit crew choice. Could it be Tony Stewart's or Carl Edwards? Or somebody else? Everyone looking for something.
Well, these cars, we talk about these drivers approaching 200 miles an hour. See anything out there, and there's spotters all around these racetracks. As a driver, you appreciate them being on top of this. You know, it's not always something big, and it's not always exactly what it may have looked like, but you can't take a chance at these speeds.
Yeah, the other thing is they're using the entire surface. We've seen cars running as close to that wall as we see that sweeper truck, so we need to keep the whole track clean.
First round of caution flag pit stops. Matt Kenseth has the very first pit on pit entry, Dave.
And for our leader, the adjustments have already been made. Air pressure reduced in the rear tires. He says you fixed the free end a little bit, but it's still just a little bit loose, tight, and then loose off the corner. Vince.
Marcus Ambrose, you see him bottom left of your screen running fifth, says it's too free getting in and too much load on the right front. They're going to go up a half round on the track bar and 4 tires. Jamie?
Tony Stewart in the upper right-hand side says he's just, he needs to cut better through the center, actually. The exit is good. They're going to make a wedge adjustment in the left rear 4 tires, Doc.
Right lower corner, Carl Edwards said the wedge didn't help it as he leaves pit road. He said, take that round of wedge back out. We're hurting my exit off the corner.
Going to be a big charge to the end of the pit lane, but it will be Matt Kenseth retaining the lead under the first caution today here at Texas Motor Speedway, already past 150 miles. Race fans, check out NASCAR.com/RaceBuddy to watch coverage live from Texas. Follow your favorite drivers for free with 8 live camera views. Doubled up for the restart. Denny Hamlin catching up to the tail of the field. He had gone a lap down just before the yellow, so being the first car lap down, Hamlin is the Aaron's Lucky Dog free pass. Gets back on the lead lap in that 24th position. Greg Biffle lost some spots on the pit lane. Doc, what happened?
Yeah, we lost 3 spots on pit road. It took a shock shim out of the left front and also went down 3 rounds on the track bar trying to find something that will tighten up that race car. He has been sideways since they waved the green flag. Again, shock shim out of the left front and down 3 rounds on the track bar. Big adjustment, guys, to try to help that forward.
Doc Biffle lined up in 10th position for this restart. So it'll be Kenseth and Edwards leading the field for the restart. This green flag restart presented by American Ethanol. Tony Stewart.
Smoke was ready to go when they dropped the green flag there.
It's one thing we've seen out of Tony this year, especially when the chase started. He started getting very aggressive on these restarts.
Trying to find a way to squeeze in front of Matt Kenseth, who's dominated most of this race so far. Stewart led that lap, but Kenseth isn't giving up. You're going to squeeze up in front of him there?
Yeah, not quite enough room there.
Carl Edwards lurking.
Tony really moving the steering wheel there. A little bit loose right in the center of the corner, but still fighting.
That lap to Kenseth. Tony's got him here. Boy, Kenseth gets a big run off that corner, though. So it is Stewart, Kenseth, Edwards, top 3 now. Jamie, how about that 17?
Well, just before the green flag dropped, Darian Grubb, the crew chief, told Tony Stewart, all right, we've freed you up a little bit. We're going to get you off that splitter so you can go for it. Freed him up is exactly what they did.
Talking Tony Stewart there. Thanks, Jamie. Stewart now the leader. Quick update, a couple of guys took the wave around to get back on the lead lap at the end of that last caution. Landon Castle and Bobby Labonte now back on the lead lap in 26th and 27th. There were several others that took a wave around, but they were more than 1 lap down.
Yeah, they'll need a caution here to try to make all of that work out for them, but good strategy.
Checking the championship standings. Remember the difference between first place and second place is a few points instead of the 1 point per position that goes back through the field. So Tony Stewart leading, and even though Carl Edwards is third, that 8-point gap they had between him starting the race gets altered a little bit. Smoke having that number 1 spot.
Well, that's the best way for Tony Stewart to talk to Carl Edwards right now and show him what he's got for him. It's to make sure Carl's looking at his rear bumper.
Jeff Burton working on Martin Truex, 31, trying to move forward. '15th and 16th spots there. Whoa, hang on.
That's a big slide by Truex right there. You see that a lot of times. The car just pushing out. You have to jerk the wheel just a little bit. Sends the back end out. Jeff Burton, a former winner at this racetrack, trying to get up towards the top 10.
And as difficult a season as 2011 has been for Jeff Burton, really struggled. Didn't even have a top 10 finish until August of the season. He's got top 10s in the last 2 straight races. Little momentum.
It has been a horrible season for that 31, but it seems like the last few races they have turned it around somewhat, and they've had some good breaks and some good strategy along the way.
Here's Regan Smith, 78. David Ruderman, 00. That is 17th and 18th. Remember, Ruderman started at the back of the field after an engine change. Oh! And almost lost the race car there. Wow.
That was a slide right there. Ruderman able to hang on to it. He said this car wasn't handling all of that great, but he's been able to move forward and been pretty impressive so far. But that was a nice save.
They reported to us earlier that a socket came up off the track and went through the radiator, forced that 00 to change engines, and boy, those were some busy hands.
Yeah, we hadn't talked a lot about the seams here. They're not quite as bad as some other places, but it looked like he got that right rear on that seam. Dave, what are they saying about David's car now?
Well, I just got handed a note from their team that he believes he may have transmission issues. I was going to talk about how he's come up through the field, and the really loose, evil loose race car earlier had come around a little bit to him, but we have to keep an eye on him now. He thinks he might have a transmission problem.
All right, Dave. Keep an eye on the 00 as we approach halfway in this race. Don't forget, stay tuned for our NASCAR non-stop coverage in the second half of today's race, presented by Nationwide. Tony Stewart leading Matt Kenseth. Barely. There it is. Maybe 2 car lengths between them. Though Stewart got a good run off of that corner.
Back at Texas Motor Speedway, 130 laps in, and a couple of teammates working on each other for third place. That's points leader Carl Edwards in the 99 in front. His teammate, who is driving possibly for a ride next season in the 6, David Reagan. In front of them, another teammate driving for a championship in the 617 car. That's Matt Kenseth, trailing Tony Stewart by just a little bit. So let's take an inside look at what's happening in the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series, brought to you by Sprint. Lap leaders. 278 laps led once upon a time. November of 2006, that was Jeff Gordon. But today, Tony Stewart. Today, that goes to Matt Kenseth, who has led 87. And right now, he's close to the lead, running in second to Tony Stewart. But we've seen some trouble spots in this racetrack, and this is what we were talking about earlier. Turn 2. It's bumpy. The banking can give you a little bit of trouble, and that's what some of these guys are struggling with now.
Yeah, just a little while ago, we saw the 56 car of Martin Truex Jr. get loose up off of turn 2. And Brad, it was just, in my opinion, a classic case of the banking kind of getting flat, whole car getting loose. Watch Martin here. He comes off turn 2. He's on the banking. Now he starts hitting the straightaway. Look at that. Oh, that baby steps out.
Yes, she does.
And that's what happens when you lose the banking. You lose the downforce, or you lose the grip. I meant to say, car gets loose.
Yeah, I talked to Martin all day yesterday, and that was one of the things he was fighting in practice, was that race car being very, very loose. And it doesn't seem to be that they have gotten it quite figured out, Leslie.
It's definitely running on the free side, but it's not a big problem, that's for sure. But those are some of the things you experience on the exit of turn 2.
Yeah.
Another solid battle on the racetrack. Check out 5-time 48 of Jimmy Johnson battling with Kevin Harvick. That is for 6th. Vince, what do you got on that 29 car?
Pretty solid lap times for Kevin Harvick. He's really been good through 1 and 2, but says the traffic and the dirty air have been the biggest issues. But it's interesting, we talk about how the track has changed. They have not made any changes to the 29 car each of the last 2 stops, but the handling of the car continues to be altered, an indication, Alan, that the track conditions are changing.
Absolutely, Vince, and are going to continue to change throughout this race as the sun sets and the lights come on and the temperature cools. And even during the daylight part of the races, the sun shines down on this track and the rubber off these tires wears into the surface.
There are just so many things that make it change. And oh yeah, by the way, as these drivers work hard and you get to a long 500 miles, your fastest times are going to be as this race winds down. So you better be ready for all of that.
33 car Clint Boyer was running 15th just a minute ago, and off of turn 4, pulled down to the inside of the racetrack. It looked like he was wiggling the car around a little bit. He's dropped back to 23rd position. Watch this.
I'm not sure he didn't have maybe an ignition type problem there, and he was trying to reach to the box or something. The car sometimes will literally shut off. Looks like he's got it back running somewhat now. How about it, Dave?
Well, the car has been very loose in and off of the corner. He's radioed to the team a couple of times that none of the changes that we've made have been working. He hasn't talked about that particular incident. It was curious that the team seemed to be looking over the wheels last time on pit road as if they might have a vibration or something like that, but really nothing yet. It looks like he's back up to speed, Nicole.
All right, Dave, thanks. So Boyer back now to 23rd position. We documented Greg Biffle losing some spots on pit road a little bit ago. And now Biffle losing a couple of more spots on the racetrack and almost scraping the paint off the right side of that car, off that wall.
Looks like they've missed the setup a little bit today. That car has been extremely loose.
16 started on pole position in today's race, led the opening 23 laps of the race. But once Matt Kenseth went by him, Biffle has not gotten back to the point.
Yeah, and you think, well, if he can get to whenever the sun goes down here, that may go away, but sometimes that will actually enhance your problem. If it's a situation that your front end is turning so good, you're only going to get more grip from that as the sun goes down and the track cools off. So it could actually create an even bigger problem for them. They're going to have to make a big swing at this thing eventually.
Tony Stewart out in front. One of 5 different drivers that have traded the lead 11 times in a race that has only seen 1 caution flag wave so far through 200 miles. Back live, the Aaa Texas 500 at Texas Motor Speedway. Carl Edwards giving up a couple of spots. Brad Keselowski goes by Edwards in the 2. Jimmy Johnson by Edwards in the 48. Carl goes back to 6th position.
With that little pass there, our points are now tied as they run. A lot of laps to go, but very interesting.
Tony Stewart leading this race. And Edwards giving up those couple of spots there in the last lap. I'm curious. We heard the couple of bits of radio from Bob Osborne, Carl's crew chief, to Carl about tires and right front tires maybe showing a little vulnerability with their particular chassis setup. You've been in one of these championship runs before. You're behind the wheel. Are you getting a little conservative behind the wheel hearing that?
Always caught my attention when they'd tell me about it for sure, you know. And in a situation, a fast racetrack, Carl Edwards, very smart driver, knows what he needs to do to try to win this championship. Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me a bit that he's backed off and cooled it a little bit and see if all of this goes away as there's more rubber laid down. I don't know.
Yeah, this is still a good chance for Tony to do his talking with his race car. We've heard him talk off the racetrack. He's definitely talking with that race car today.
Speaking of talking to the race car, David Reagan in the 6. Looking to create opportunity for himself for next season. The sponsor on that car, UPS, going to transition to being a partial sponsor with Roush Fenway Racing's other cars for next season. David Reagan doesn't know what his future is. Basically, that team is planning on running 3 cars for now.
Yeah, it's a shame that David Reagan, he's a very talented race driver. He's got a nice team that working around. You can see them continue to build with each other and be more successful. So hopefully somebody will come along with some money and make that happen for David Reagan.
And Jimmy Johnson fighting for 4th place there with Brad Keselowski. Keselowski has made a nice rebound as well as Johnson. Jimmy restarted 12th at that last green flag, and here he is up in 5th position. As we work toward the midway point of this race, let's check in with Jamie Little down on pit road. Jamie?
Well, Alan, unfortunately, I have some sad news to report. This morning, during a freestyle motocross exhibition outside of the racetrack, something we see at many tracks, a rider by the name of Jim McNeil, 32 years old. He's a 5-time X Games competitor. We've seen him over the years. He was doing a practice jump when he crashed. He was then airlifted to a local hospital where he was pronounced dead. Our thoughts and prayers are with Jim McNeil, his family, and the entire motocross community. Alan?
Thank you, Jamie. McNeil was 32 years old from Phoenix, Arizona. Certainly our thoughts with his family. Tony Stewart is leading here at Texas, out in front, making this championship race interesting. Fast and furious today at Texas Motor Speedway in race number 8 in the chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup. Tony Stewart leading a race that has had only one caution so far, and we're coming up on another set of green flag pit stops, Vince.
Well, the 42 of 1 Montoya getting a little bit better, but still loose. They put a rubber in to help him out, trying to get that 42 closer to the front.
And first one's made the move to pit road, and here comes some more. Kurt Busch is coming in. Brian Vickers is coming in. We'll see how long it takes for the leader, Tony Stewart, to give up that #1 spot. Dave?
Kurt Busch's car is a little bit better than the last time they were on pit road under caution. They had the hood lifted. They worked on the bump stops on the right front of that car. This time just a 4-tire change, air pressure adjustment for Kurt. His car is still just a little bit loose. Vince?
Pretty solid run today for Brian Vickers after that tough day last week at Martinsville, but still loose on the drive off. They made a chassis adjustment with 4 tires. Jamie?
And Dale Jr. car has been all over the place. He's saying now it was just starting to come in. The start of the last run, he was hitting the splitter on the track. They're giving him the countdown into his pit box. Brought a completely different setup this weekend, just throwing stuff at it to see if they can get something to work. 4 tires and fuel, Dave.
David Ruderman has not complained anymore about his transmission. We'll see if he can get the car off of pit road. A 4-tire change with an air pressure adjustment, still loose, and he is gone. Casey Kane is in as well. Kane has been complaining about a loose car as well for the Red Bull team. There it is. An air pressure change as well for Casey Kane. No chassis adjustments. Vince?
The 29 of Kevin Harvick is in, and Harvick has slipped back to about 10th place, so they need to make a track bar adjustment. Going to go down 1 round, put 4 tires on it, a little bit too loose for Kevin Harvick. Jamie?
And Tony Stewart gives up the lead. He said he's still a little tight in the center. That's what they've been chasing all race long. He said he took off that way after the last stop. You see the opening before his pit box. The guys went around on the right-hand side. They've been solid in the 13-second mark all day long, Dave.
Matt Kenseth had slipped back to the 3rd position. He said the run started out great, but then it was so loose he couldn't drive it. You're looking at Carl Edwards, Doc.
Carl Edwards slipped back to 7th spot to the car loose all the way through the corners. Said, guys, go ahead and put that round a wedge back in. Rear air pressure change for lateral grip. Dave?
5-time champ is in. He said his car was free. The crew will go to work on it, change his 4 tires, get him back on his way. An air pressure adjustment has been made. There will be no chassis adjustment for Jimmy Johnson. Doc?
Jeff Gordon had driven the 24 car all the way up to 6. He said the car a little bit tight in traffic. This time, 4 tires, fuel, 1 round in the right rear. Jeff said the car just got really, really tight in traffic and would not turn. But he's got a pretty good race car. Very pleased with where the car has come as the track has changed.
Thanks, Doc. Jimmy Johnson stayed out to lead a lap. Then he pitted. Brad Keselowski stayed out to lead a lap. Now he is on pit road. What will basically complete the cycle of stops for the leaders. Doc?
And last time, Paul Wolf did not change a thing, and Brad said, you know what, the car's pretty much consistent the whole run. If anything, it's a little tight entering turn 1 to Paul. As the fuel burns off, the car gets better and better, and actually Brad has moved up to that high groove and been able to make up a lot of ground. Routine pit stop, 4 tires, the 2 cars away.
All right, so the cycle is complete, and we remind you that the AT&T Fastest Pit Crew of the Year award, currently led by Kevin Harvick. You can help determine the standings. Vote from your AT&T phone by texting the car number to 234-567 for the pit crew you think is fastest and most valuable. Cycle of stops. Tony Stewart holds the lead. Matt Kenseth gets back 2nd place from David Reagan. Jimmy Johnson and Marcos Ambrose rounding out the top 5. after that cycle of pit stops. So time to go over the wall with Kenyatta Houston, our over-the-wall reporter. He's changing the front tires for David Gilliland in that 34 car.
Here we go, baby. Living the dream, living the dream.
Tony Stewart and Carl Edwards have made this championship a lot of fun off Stewart's post-race comments at Martinsville last week. And they have been going at it on the racetrack as well today here at Texas Motor Speedway. Stewart with a third to first move after a restart from the only caution of this race so far. And Tony is out in front, while Carl Edwards, who has led a couple of times for 3 laps today, has fallen back a few positions in the middle sections of this race and is currently running in 7th position after running up in the top 3 most of the opening stages of the race. Look at those standings. Stewart came in 8 points down. He's up by 1 on Edwards now, as Carl tries to hold off Casey Kane for that 7th spot. Sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say, it could be 2. Casey Kane's coming pretty hard on Carl Edwards right now.
Yeah, busy hands there in that 99. Heard those radio transmissions earlier with Bob Osborne telling Carl Edwards about some things with their right front tire, and Dale and I were talking, and Andy talking about it. How about let's hear what the crew chief has to say? They backing off any, Doc?
Well, why don't we ask Bob Osborne down here in the pits? Looking over, talking to the engineer. We're getting ready to talk to Carl on the way by. Bob, we heard you told Carl about the right front tire, some wear on the shoulder. What have you guys done to fix that, and have you backed off a little bit to try to help him?
We're just taking it easy on everything. We needed to track the rubber up a little bit, get a little bit better wear on that right front. It's part of it. A lot of guys up and down pit road had the same issue on the first run.
Okay, the car had been very, very loose. They've made an adjustment here to try to help the right front. By the way, on this last stop, the left rear was worn out. But for more updates on what was actually happening with Carl Edwards, let's go to our Craftsman Tech Garage and Tim Brewer.
Thanks, Doc. What the issue they're facing right now, the right front tire has too much camber in it, meaning it's running on this area of the tire too much. Ideally, Bob would like to stop right now and take this spacer and take this shim out of it, take about a 1/2 degree of camber out there, take some of the heat off the inside of the right front tire, put it on the outside. That would fix it ideally. But in his situation, he don't have time to do that right now, so he's got to back off to save that right front tire. Guys?
Mr. Brewer knows what it's like to be in these championship fights, too, back there in our Craftsman Tech Garage. Thanks, Tim.
Yeah, that's one part of the setup that's really kind of locked in. I mean, you could come down pit road and change it, but it would take you a long time. You'd probably lose a lap to try to do it, but it's something you just have to live with and try to adjust around it. That's what you try to do when you have something like that, is just try to adjust your car around it to try to take care of it.
Yeah, and something else in listening, Doc said that wore the left rear tire out. We just wonder if it's a little too much wedge in the car right now. If Carl has any looseness at all, if you took some wedge out to help those 2 tires right there, and that's the ones that it would affect the most. Whoa. Yeah, I was asking if he's a little loose. Yeah, he's loose. They would have to make an adjustment somewhere else, maybe with the track bar or something like that to tighten him up. So some adjustments they may look at later on in this race.
Yeah, one thing that's happening right now is the track is getting shaded all the way around. The track temp's coming down, and that's changing some of these cars.
So across halfway in this race, it is Tony Stewart who is out in front. Stewart has led 58 of the 176 laps, make it 177 so far in this race. There's Matt Kenseth, who's led the most laps so far, running second now. He's been out in front for 87 of the laps. You see, Matt has only been cycled down when they've made those green flag pit stops during the race. Solid job today by David Reagan.
He's been solid all day long. One of his favorite racetracks, and he really wants to make something happen. Here comes Carl, trying to get some points back right now. 1 point. Makes that pass.
That is 6th place he took away from Brad Keselowski. Well, we'll see if the track conditions come to them. You heard Bob Osborne say they were saving everything. He didn't specifically reference they were concerned about the right front tire, but he said they were saving everything.
Yeah, and it makes you wonder. We saw this 2-car going forward earlier as the sun was out, and as Andy just pointed out, we're getting a lot of shade here now, so is it affecting the handling of that race car as he slips and loses a few spots?
A dead heat in the points on that lap.
Check that out. That is fun. All right, Brad Keselowski, speaking of him, let's get an update on him. He fell back, moved forward. Where's he at now, Doc?
Well, the cloud cover and the sun going away has certainly been his undoing. The car was great about 10 minutes ago, and now he said the car is super. He only used two super loose, guys. He said it absolutely from the center of the corner off, he can't use the throttle.
Unlike Biffle, who used three really looses earlier. Thanks, Doc.
You can see how Brad's fighting that steering wheel, and that he said he was loose earlier in the race when he went to the throttle to get off the corner. And that can really cause you a lot of problems because you got these long straightaways, and if you can't use all the throttle and you're turning the steering wheel right, you can't carry that speed down the straightaway.
Boy, it's really stressful as a driver, too. A loose race car here, trying to keep up where you have a little harder grip on that steering wheel.
Little white knuckle, huh?
Yes.
Brad was fourth before. Now you see back in seventh position. We're kind of taking you back through some of the top front runners. We got back to Jimmy Johnson. And we jumped off to catch that fight for position. Johnson fell back, moved forward, fell back, and now you see he's restarted 12th, and he's charged up to 4th in this run. Of course, the Jimmy Johnson Hendrick Motorsports team is all the Hendrick team, thinking about Rick Hendrick, their team owner. Rick and his wife Linda involved in an aviation accident at the beginning of the week down in Key West, Florida, when the plane they were flying on's brakes failed upon landing. Rick suffered some broken ribs and a broken shoulder blade in that. Checked with the team today. He is still in a medical facility in the Charlotte area, helping manage the pain and so on, but is doing fine. His wife Linda is doing well. The pilots were uninjured in the accident, and everyone's sending thoughts of support for Mr. Hendrick as he recovers from that incident earlier this week. Past halfway in race 8 in the chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup. Texas Motor Speedway in Fort Worth, one of the fastest tracks on the NASCAR Sprint Cup circuit. And the fight for the championship that Tony Stewart took to Carl Edwards by winning last Sunday in Martinsville, getting out of the car and saying he better watch out. We're not going to make these next 3 weeks easy on him. He's backing up with actions today here in the Lone Star State. Stewart out in front of this race while Edwards runs in 6th position. Tony Stewart really on a roll in the late going in this season. Another big story on the day. Kyle Busch, after an incident in Friday night's NASCAR Camping World Truck Series race here in Texas, parked, sat down by NASCAR officials, told you're not allowed to race this weekend. Kyle watching while Michael McDowell subs for him behind the wheel of this 18 car. Busch is here on the pit box for the 18 team, supporting his team. McDowell struggling. He has gone a second lap down now in 31st position in the 18 car. And Casey Kane in that 4 car. One of those we thought might get up and contend for the win in this race. Just making a move on Brad Keselowski to grab a spot.
Yeah, and I think we'll talk more about this 4 car before the night's over.
Might be talking more about that 9 car, right side of the screen as well. Marcus Ambrose just took 4th spot from Jimmy Johnson.
Ambrose has been running well lately, especially on these mile-and-a-half banked racetracks, so you see a lot more. He had a good run at Charlotte.
It seems like all these Roush cars are fast on the mile-and-a-halves, and Ambrose is really taking advantage of that at Charlotte. I remember how well he ran there. I mean, just an incredible race that he had, and all of the Fords just seem to be fast.
It's just no substitute for that horsepower that Doug Yates provides these guys. That certainly makes these mile-and-a-halves more fun to drive when you have that under the hood.
And someone else to talk about here, Jeff Gordon, who's bid for this championship, has hit some bumps in the road. Gordon coming to a track that he's called frustrating for him, hot or cold. He either runs right up front or he struggles terribly. Might be one of those right up front days for that 24. One of the guys we thought would be in the mix for this championship based on how well he ran coming into the chase. But things just have not gone his way. What was that all about?
It's like Brad Keselowski had to get out of the throttle.
And Landon Castle in the 51 also avoiding. Castle a couple of laps down in 31st. Here's what we talked about. Jeff Gordon coming into the chase. Had some momentum going. These last 5 weeks, just not been what he needed.
Pretty flat. Had a good run last week, though. Finished third at Martinsville.
So Jeff Gordon running now in 8th position. Keselowski back to 9th. Kevin Harvick is running 10th. All of that going on behind Tony Stewart, who leads at Texas Motor Speedway. It's time to go NASCAR Nonstop, presented by Nationwide.
193 laps complete here at Texas Motor Speedway, and NASCAR Now tonight at 10 o'clock Eastern Time on ESPN2 will have a complete wrap-up of the day's events, and the roundtable tomorrow afternoon, 2:30 Eastern on ESPN2. Next weekend, we head to Phoenix. It's the NASCAR Nationwide Series at Phoenix, 3 o'clock in the afternoon on ESPN2, and of course, Sunday, it is race 9 of the Chase, 2 o'clock Eastern on ESPN. And next Sunday night, it's the Automobile Club of Southern California NHRA Finals, 7 o'clock Eastern on ESPN2. As you saw on the NASCAR Nonstop, no changes. Taking a look at the top 10, Tony Stewart still leads Matt Kenseth by more than a second on the track. Talked a little bit before break about some of those guys in the top 10. Some of the best battles on the track right now are for 10th, Kevin Harvick and A.J. Allmendinger back there battling, and Kevin Harvick is where we'll start as we go up to speed with Vince Welch.
Kevin Harvick, they brought a brand new car here for Kevin Harvick this weekend, hoping that it would be better in traffic, and so far it's really just been kind of a mixed bag. Right now, he said it's just too loose off. They haven't been able to put on the type of pressure they were hoping to put on Tony Stewart and Carl Edwards in this race so far. Stewart is running first, Edwards is running 6th, Harvick just 11. Jamie?
And the 88 of Dale Earnhardt Jr. behind him. He's been struggling today. The car has been a little bit all over the place. Steve Letarte, his crew chief, this morning told me Hendrick Motorsports has gone in the wrong direction on 1.5-mile tracks. They wanted to try something different. As you see him drop onto pit road, they're counting him down all the way to his pit box right now, saying the car basically is loose, but they have been working in the right direction. He is moving forward. He says 15th on the board going by. He was 11th before he dropped onto pit road. You see the 20 coming out. The 88 from the high camera. The guys go around to the right-hand side. They've been adjusting to try to tighten him up. A problem that is getting worse as it cools off. You saw the wrench in the right-hand side of the rear windshield. It went over to the left side now. They'll continue to work. Let's go to Vince Welch.
Mark Martin in the top 20, just inside it. They've had a pretty good race car throughout the course of the day. Haven't made many changes. Slight air pressure adjustment with that 4-tire stop. The 83 of Brian Vickers, another one that's been solid. Remember, he and teammate Casey Kane. Kane has had a real good run today. Vickers has been pretty good as well for crew chief Brian Pemberton. A 4-tire change, no chassis adjustment, just air pressure for Brian Vickers. Alan?
Check that out on the right side of the screen. Tony Stewart trying to put the car he co-owns a second lap down. Ryan Newman in that 39, while guys off pit road on fresher tires are charging around him.
Yeah, I think I'd just say the heck with it. Come to pit road myself at this point, just to stay out of the hornet's nest.
Greg Biffle lost a good bit of ground in that last run, Doc.
Indeed he did, but he said finally the car was better the way I wanted to drive it. In fact, they took a huge swing last time, put 3 rounds of wedge in, and he said take a round and a half out now. The car is really tight in the middle. They have finally been able to help Greg where he can drive the race car. Unfortunately, he lost a lot of ground. Now Biffle completing his pit stop up behind him. Great run today of Regan Smith, the winner this year at Darlington. Remember, they have Earnhardt Childress Racing engines, good horsepower, car a little bit loose on exit. Vince Welch.
Kevin Harvick came into this chase looking to make a move. He said everything is critical. We can afford no mistakes. They just haven't had the car they've needed so far. He leaves with 4 tires and an air pressure adjustment. Crash on the track.
Jeffrey Bodine.
Good save. Come on, Montoya. What an idiot.
Casey Kane on pit road as the caution comes out. Jeff Gordon. Denny Hamlin. And A.J. Allmendinger. That's Ryan Newman. Second caution of the race. We heard a snippet from the Bodine radio there. Something about Juan Pablo Montoya.
Looks like he may have blown the left front tire on the 36 car there. I don't know if he made contact with Montoya. and calls that.
Well, Montoya's got some pretty good right front damage. Oh, what car was that? That was Andy Lally in the 71. That tire casing went up underneath. Brian Vickers.
Yeah, looks like the Brian Vickers got him in the back of Jeffrey Rodine. Yeah, turned him right into Montoya. But Brian thinks he's still at Martinsville.
Have to look back further in that to see who was just coming off of pit road. And
yeah, there's a lot of speed difference right there when they were making those pit stops, trying to get off pit road. People trying to position themselves to get on the pit road.
It just adds to a frustrating season for Montoya.
Well, those that had not pitted yet include the leaders. Matt Kenseth going to be quickly to his stall, Dave.
Yes, he will, and quickly on the adjustments again. It's an air pressure adjustment. They're going to take air pressure out of the right side tires, reduced from what it was before. Matt said it's still just a little bit tight across the center of each corner. Vince?
Marcus Ambrose, bottom left, comes in third place. Still says it's loading up on the right front. They're going to make a track bar adjustment, an air pressure adjustment, and 4 tires. Jamie?
Should be a very quick stop for Tony Stewart. No chassis adjustments. Says he's loose on exit. They already made the air pressure adjustment. 4 tires, wipe the grill. 14 flat, actually a little bit longer, Doc.
Right bottom, Carl Edwards, and I'm a little bit free in both ends. That's where I'm losing ground. The air pressure drop in both rears, quarter out in the right front, and they drop the track bar.
How about that? Kenseth's crew, usually spot on. A couple of spots lost there.
Yeah, just a little bit off on that pit stop.
And Marcus Ambrose going to come off the pit lane second. Caution in the middle of green flag pit stops, going to shuffle things around a little bit for the restart order. We're going to see a bunch of people taking wave arounds and that kind of thing. Look out. That's not good. Andy Lally's car there. We'll sort out the restart order after we go NASCAR Nonstop, presented by Nationwide. Just past 300 miles in the Aaa Texas 500 at the Texas Motor Speedway, and under the second caution of the race that came out after Brian Vickers, Jeffrey Bodine, and Juan Pablo Montoya tangled off turn number 2. That caution came out in the middle of a series of green flag pit stops. Kasey Kahne was on pit road when the yellow waved. So when the pace car collected everyone, it kept him on the lead lap. When all the other leaders pitted, Kahne stayed out. He is going to be the new leader of this race, with Tony Stewart running right behind him when we get set to go back to green.
NASCAR Sprint Cup Series at Texas is brought to you by Lowe's. Lowe's, never stop improving.
And as the sun gets lower in the sky and the shadows now completely just about envelop this Texas Motor Speedway, the lights will be on soon and the conditions will continue to change and challenge these drivers and crew chiefs as we head through the concluding 200 miles of this race. Double pit stops under this caution for Kevin Harvick and Jimmy Johnson in the 29 and 48. Not going to cost them much, Andy, because all the wave around cars are going to end up behind them, so they didn't really lose a lot of track position by the extra pit stops.
Yeah, I was still kind of wondering why they made 2 stops, unless they were maybe making an adjustment on the car after they discussed it a little bit. Figured they didn't lose a lot by making that extra stop. They just came back in to adjust on it. That was a big break for Kasey Kahne, though. He gets the lead right here.
All right, Kevin Harvick talking about a second ago, by the way, was the first car a lap down at that caution. Had just pitted under the green when the yellow came out, so that gives him the Aaron's Lucky Dog free pass. He is back on the lead lap, made the extra pit stop, and is now getting ready to restart at the tail end of this field, Vince.
When Harvick went back out after that initial stop, Alan, he had a bad vibration. He thought they better come in and take care of it just to make sure. They came in, and he also told Gil Martin, the crew chief, if we're going to take a big swing at it, let's do it now. We're running out of time. So they put a rubber in the left rear, made a track bar adjustment, gave him 4 fresh tires, taped up those brake ducts on the front as well. So a lot of changes for the 29. Let's see if they help.
All right, Vince, and Kevin Harvick in 10th position for the moment, though that's going to change as the scoring cycles after this restart. Well, let's see if Casey Kane can do anything with Tony Stewart here. No, big bottleneck here.
Well, Kane really loose off as they try to exit turn 2. Marcus Ambrose rolling his bumper, creating part of that problem for him.
Ambrose going for second as Stewart smokes his way back into the lead. Ambrose to second. Reagan and Kane fight for third. Matt Kenseth and Edwards trapped right behind them.
Probably going to see some of the fastest speeds of the day right here. Drivers on fresh tires, cool racetrack.
Now Edwards side by side with Kenseth.
Saw Matt Kenseth get really loose down in 1 and 2 that time.
Yeah, still loose off of turn 4 right there on the outside of Carl Edwards. Talking about how even these cars are, and the lap times and speeds have been so close. This is the only time that you can really make these moves to try to gain spots as these restart.
We have 19 cars on the lead lap. While you watch this, let me mention 21 drivers took a wave around under that yellow. They didn't pit under the caution. Most of them had been on the pit lane under green just before the yellow came out. They were allowed to go by the pace car because they were between the leader and the pace car. 8 of those drivers got back on the lead lap. Truex, Earnhardt Jr., Biffle, Vickers, Hamlin, Kurt Busch, Jeff Burton back on the lead lap by the wave around. Remember, the leader has to be the first thing behind the pace car for a restart. The cars that pit have to restart at the tail end of the line or line up on the tail end of the line when they come off the pit lane. That puts all those other cars between the pace car and the leader, and they get waved around. And that's a lot of these guys here in this Hornet's Nest.
Yeah, and they're working hard to try to get some speed and make up some time, having to start back there. A lot of hard racing going on. Denny Hamlin there. He's had a very uncharacteristic day for Denny Hamlin at Texas Motor Speedway. Yeah, 2 of the last 3 here.
Yeah, but he is up to 13th spot on the lead lap.
'38 car is not on the lead lap. It's Travis Kvapil. He's back in 35th spot. Joey Logano in the 20 has had a tough day as well and is not on the lead lap. He's a couple laps down in 32nd, while Hamlin and Biffle try and race their way through.
Yeah, Biffle back in 14th after starting on the pole and leading a good portion of the first 100 laps of this race.
And Jeff Gordon trying to move to the front. Remember, Gordon just coming down pit road when the caution waved, had to drive through without stopping to make sure he stayed on the lead lap, then come back in and pit again. Just not quite on the pit lane enough to take advantage like Casey Kane was.
Now, you talk about that wave around rule, which we've had for a while now, but it used to be years ago that all of those cars that took this wave around would have started in front of the lead lap cars, actually the leaders. It really made for some interesting racing, I'll put it, at times, especially if you were the leader trying to get through those cars.
Yeah. How about chaotic?
Yeah, chaotic. That's good, yeah, and much less of that now. Most drivers appreciate this a lot more.
Jeff Gordon picks up another spot. 7th place for Gordon. Might yet see that 24 car at the front of the field by the end of the night. But these long green runs we've seen aren't really helping him get that chance.
Well, Tony Stewart's trying to make sure nobody else gets to the front. Very impressed with Tony Stewart and the way he's been able to handle all of this. See Regan Smith having a pretty solid day still.
78 car. Clint Boyer there, 33. Saw him have some troubles earlier. And Mark Martin in the 5, announced here this weekend. And Mark will go to drive for Michael Waltrip Racing next season in the 00 car. Talked about David Ruderman earlier getting notice that he would not be back in that car. Mark Martin will go there and drive that car in 25 races for next season, with Michael Waltrip driving in another 5 in that 00 car. Look at Ruderman, who started at the back of the field.
Hey, Gordon's car looks the best I've seen it all day during this run. I watched him through the middle of the corner. He's really making some speed.
And the counter to that, Matt Kenseth may look as bad as we've seen him look all night so far.
It kind of probably has to do somewhat with the changing conditions of the racetrack here right now and how they were set up and what part of this race they were looking to do. You know, when they ran here earlier this year, Matt Kenseth, that was a day race and everything through the afternoon, and now Matt struggled a little bit as these temperatures have cooled their racing surface down some.
Now, speaking of temperature, better watch the water temperature gauge on that 17th car with that piece of paper or something across the grill opening. There's your track temperatures, Andy.
Yep, starting down. This is when this track's going through a little phase. Everybody needs to be paying attention how their cars are handling now so they can get them adjusted up for the end.
117 laps to go. At least another pit stop or two as we go NASCAR nonstop, presented by Nationwide. Closing in on 350 miles at Texas Motor Speedway, and the race for the lead. Tony Stewart in the top spot in the 14, but Marcos Ambrose in the 9. Trying to find a way around him to that number 1 spot.
I think they radioed to Marcus, told him he is at Watkins Glen or something. He's coming on.
Got an opening. Not quite.
Yeah, this is a team that we've seen be really solid on a lot of the ovals. Have really good performances. See if they can finish it off tonight. They haven't been able to do that very often. Seems like that there's just one little segment where they get off after having solid days.
What a great story Ambrose is. From Australia, Tasmania specifically, champion in the V8 Supercar Series, their major form of racing down under. Packed up his family and moved to the States because he wanted a crack at NASCAR racing. And he's worked his way from an initial limited beginning in the Truck Series up to the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series and picked up a big win at Watkins Glen back in the month of August, his first win in the Sprint Cup Series. That a road course, which his background is from, but he sure has learned this oval track racing thing, and he's in contention for the win today here at Texas.
Marcus is good everywhere. I mean, he's just a good, aggressive race car driver, and he wants it bad.
Yeah, he had a good run here back earlier this year, finished 6th, so this isn't surprising.
Been talking a lot about champions and championships. Got a lot of champions going to be featured on ESPN's Monday Night Football in the coming weeks. This week on Monday Night Football, Jay Cutler and the Bears face an Eagles team looking for a 3rd straight win. It's Bears-Eagles. Should be a good one. On Monday Night Football, 8:30 Eastern, also available live on Watch ESPN. Coverage starts at 7 Eastern with Monday Night Countdown served by Applebee's.
Eagles started looking more like that team they were expecting here after a pretty horrendous start they had.
Yep.
Should be a fun game to watch.
And a lot of matchups in coming weeks featuring Super Bowl champions of the past on Monday Night Football as the great season rolls on.
Yeah, I get to see my favorite announcer, besides you and Andy, John Gruden. Love to listen to.
It's a good thing you caught that. Matt Kenseth struggling in this segment of the race, but he's about to get a spot back from Jeff Gordon. Racing with Gordon there for 5th and 6th.
Well, like he's finally going to get this pass made.
Well, maybe actually. Yeah, Gordon is through there. Kenseth had fallen back, picked up a couple, now falling back again. So Matt running 6th, Jeff Gordon 5th. They're 3.5 seconds behind Tony Stewart, the leader here at Texas. We go NASCAR Nonstop, presented by Nationwide. As you watch our NASCAR Nonstop coverage from today at Texas Motor Speedway, you see Tony Stewart challenged by Casey Kane for the lead, but able to fend him off and even now put a little gap in there.
I'm telling you something, Tony Stewart's racing everybody for this lead. He's not giving it up at all because he's trying to lead the most laps. He's got 113 laps led so far, and he is the leader there. But he is not giving up. He is making those guys try to earn that spot. Nobody's been able to beat him yet.
Let's check in on a couple of the front runners. Jamie, how about Tony Stewart?
Well, the good news for Tony, no matter how hard he's been racing today, Darian Grubb, his crew chief, told him on the radio, man, your tires are looking good every time they come off the race car. Tony just told his team, guys, become a little bit loose, back on the gas, and you can see him getting a little sideways the closer Casey Kane gets. And for more on that, let's go to Dave.
And of course, Kane was the restart leader. We saw him get loose and lose positions, but the car is coming back around. They made an adjustment last time, air pressure for him. The car was a little bit out of the track, in the driver's words, so Casey Kane was able to get it done now as they've made that adjustment. You talked to Kenny Francis' crew chief earlier today. He said, I'm not surprised we've been close to winning races here near the end. The attitude has been good at the shop, even though myself and the driver are leaving, and a lot of the guys don't know what's happening to this team, but the attitude's been good, and boy, have they been fast.
Yeah, still no word on the future of this Red Bull Racing team. Of course, Red Bull saying that they're done at the end of this season, and team general manager Jay Fry trying to find a buyer and find a way to keep that group in business for next year, and they still don't have anything done yet. 6 and 99. David Reagan, Carl Edwards for 6th place.
David Reagan started to slide back a little bit during this run. Gives that spot to Carl now, fall in behind him.
Yeah, Jeff Gordon and Matt Kenseth had gone by Reagan before Edwards went by in this run of the race. Carl running well today, 6th place. But Tony Stewart leading a lot of laps. It's getting interesting, but still a long way to go in this one. Talking about Reagan slipping back, Jamie, what are they saying?
Well, he's saying, guys, I'm just free in the middle and under throttle. And they said, Drew Blickensderfer, his crew chief, just cheerleading, telling him, stay there. We can't lose any more positions here. We'll get you fixed up. And they're talking about pitting within the next 10 laps.
Thanks, Jamie. Solid drive so far today for David Reagan. And right behind Reagan is A.J. Allmendinger in the 43. Speaking of solid drives. Nice job by the 43 team today, Vince.
And I tell you what, when you look at what Greg Irwin, the crew chief, and A.J. Allmendinger have done since they got together at the Brickyard, it's been impressive. We got a crash, and it's the 5-time champion, Jimmy Johnson.
In the grass, on the front stretch, off of turn 4. He was running in 9th position at the time.
There you go, right here, 4 tires.
Didn't have to go far to his pit stall. He spun down through the grass. Just drove right over to the pit stall to get 4 new tires.
Let's go, 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 go. Come on.
Well, he's going to get 2.
Let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go.
Trying to beat Tony Stewart to the line. Looks like he did.
And that line, start-finish line, extends all the way across to pit road there, too, and it looked like that Jimmy was just ahead of him.
Yeah, he did beat him to the line.
Seeing here if Jimmy Johnson is sent back around the pace car by NASCAR. What they were trying to do is just change those tires. What happened here?
Looks like he just spun off of turn 4.
That happens even to the best. Get a loose race car, hard to handle.
Wow, that thing got loose quick.
Hey, come on in the pit box right here. Just straight up.
Yeah, I guess. Wow. Jimmy was able to beat Tony Stewart to that scoring line in the center of pit road and does stay on the lead lap. But certainly a sign of the way things have gone for this 48 team. Unexpected spins and crashes and things that have probably signaled an end of the run of the championship. Pit stops for the leaders, Dave.
Casey Kane is on pit road. He gives up 2nd place. He will get 4 fresh tires, a drink for the driver as well. They'll fill it full of fuel. That run was pretty good for him. No complaints, just a little loose at the restart. Vince?
Bottom left of your screen, Marcos Ambrose running in 3rd place. As it's tight in the middle, a little loose off. They're going to put a quarter round in the left rear and 4 tires. Jamie?
The loosest the 14 car has been, so we need to tighten this thing up on throttle. Wedge in the left rear, fill it up with fuel. Doc?
A little tight in the middle, a little loose off for Carl Edwards. 4 tires, try to slow down 1 round, clean the grill, and tear away the windshield so I can see. And now scramble off pit road, guys.
I guess that's a scramble, Doc.
Oh, that was a tremendous scramble. Jeff Gordon lost quite a few spots. You see 5 spots and 24 car loss there. Allmendinger gained 2, and so did Harvey.
Tony Stewart hangs on to the lead on another set of pit stops. That 14 crew's been, you talked to them before the races, crew chief Darian Grubb. They said they were going to be up on it today.
Yep, they were ready.
Look at that.
Even making a chassis adjustment there.
Where are we? Yeah, we're good.
They're a big part of his winning too, aren't they?
Yep. Tony Stewart holds the lead under caution for the third time as we go NASCAR Nonstop, presented by Nationwide. Getting set for the restart here in Texas. ESPN is conducting a multifaceted initiative across its U.S. media platforms entitled America's Heroes, a salute to our veterans. Sports-related stories about our troops and veterans will be included in shows and special events taking place. Support our troops and wounded warriors, home or away, as well as their families by going to www.giveuso.org to donate $10, or text GiveUSO to 50555 to donate $10. To support providing free phone cards or holiday packages of needed items, or to help build Wounded Warrior centers. 90 laps to go, green flag. Tony Stewart chose the outside lane for this restart.
I think he learned something from racing that 4-car earlier, that he wanted to be on the outside because he was able to hold off Casey Kane when Casey tried to pass him on the inside.
Matt Kenseth looking for a way around Kane. Going to be inside, going to be outside.
Matt Kenseth really the only driver that could keep Tony Stewart from getting that bonus point of leading the most laps here today. That would be a benefit to him and his teammate Carl Edwards if he was able to do that.
Saw Jeff Gordon lose 5 spots on that pit stop, Andy. The report up from pit road is they dropped some lug nuts they had to stop and reinstall on that 24.
Oh, man, that was a tough break because they had made a good charge up into the top 5.
Speaking of charge, Carl Edwards around Marcos Ambrose for 4th. Can that 99 charge back to the front?
Well, it's getting time to do that if he's got anything left in that car today.
Look at that. 1 point as they run. Edwards and Stewart. Remember, it's 1 point per position on the track. The difference between first and second, though, is 3 points, plus a point for leading a lap, plus a point for leading the most laps. Right now, as they run with 88 laps to go, it's 1 point. 1 place on the racetrack.
See, at the end of that group, that first 5 there, Kevin Harvick's shown back up in that 6th position. See if he's got his car adjusted for the nighttime racing here.
Just a little while ago that Harvick got trapped by the caution flag, got the free pass. Now Vince, he's back up in the top 10.
Well, and they have worked on their car, and they knew that if they could get it in some cleaner air, they felt like it would be better. He's been in traffic most of the day. Kevin radioed, I think we're pretty good. Gil Martin, his crew chief, confirmed, lap times are great. Let's go to work.
Yeah, well, Harvick and that team have shown a knack for showing up at the front late in races. And late in this race, they're up in 6th position. While we watch Casey Kane try and find a way around Tony Stewart for the lead, let me mention Jimmy Johnson by cutting across from where his car came to rest in the infield grass to his pit stall. That's a commitment line violation. He had to restart at the back of the line. Johnson running in 20th place, last on the lead lap at the moment. And also just want to mention that we were talking about the USO and supporting our troops before. Got a group watching our race today live from Iraq, with the Army's 1st Battalion, 12th Cavalry Regiment out of Fort Hood here in Texas, all having a watch party right now overseas in Iraq. We thank you for your service. We salute you, and we can't wait to have you back home.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Enjoy the race.
Yeah, absolutely. Have a great time and get home safe very soon.
Greg Biffle started on the pole in that 16 car. We saw him struggle in the middle section of this race. Now he's trying to find a way back forward, but he's got a lot of ground to make up. He's back in 14th place right now, is that 16 car.
I see another that's lost some ground too is Brad Keselowski, who's up in the top 5 for a good portion. He's battling with that spot, that 13th spot, Greg Biffle.
Keselowski's lost 4 spots since the restart in that 2 car. If I have my thoughts sorted straight, we've seen that car be better longer into a run in this race today, that 2 car.
Yeah, but he's just hit a patch here in the middle part of the race where they just haven't been very good overall. I know we've got down now to 80 laps to go. They're going to have to figure something out. They've been pretty good at that. I mean, figuring out how to get the car right at the end of the race. It closes strong. The time's running out today. What are they fighting right now, Doc?
It's amazing, Andy. The car was really good, you know, as you said, in the middle part of the race. And then when the track started to cool off, they got loose. They tried a track bar adjustment on lap 202. Didn't help much. He went backwards. They put some wedge in it on lap 241, the latest stop. It hadn't helped much. The car's still loose. They're hoping that maybe as the fuel burns off, maybe the track changes a little bit. It'll get a little better. Right now, he's just hanging on, trying to hang into where he is in the top 15.
Yeah, I think he was able to deal with that problem that he had by moving all the way to the top of the track earlier, but I don't think that's working for a lot of guys right now.
And for third place, Carl Edwards, going by Matt Kenseth.
Maybe Carl's just been kind of hanging out a lot of the day, as you said, taking care of that right front tire issue that talking about they may have. Time to go.
Heard a couple of radio calls from crew chief Bob Osborne to Carl in the car after pit stops earlier in the race that they were some concerns about perhaps some specks of chunking out of their right front tire. Carl dropped back a little bit in the middle of the race. Time to go.
Can't let Tony have all the fun today.
That's right. So Edwards up to third position, 2.1 seconds behind leader Tony Stewart. As we go NASCAR Nonstop, presented by Nationwide.
Back to Texas, 259 laps complete. As you saw on NASCAR Nonstop, the leader of this race is still Tony Stewart. NASCAR Now will have a complete recap of today's race tonight at 10 o'clock Eastern on ESPN2, and then of course the Monday Roundtable at 2 o'clock East, 2:30 Eastern on ESPN2. Next weekend, we head to Phoenix. It's the NASCAR Nationwide Series, ESPN2, 3 o'clock Eastern on Saturday, and of course the Sprint Cup Series race on ESPN at 2 o'clock on Sunday, and then the Auto Club of Southern California NHRA Finals on ESPN2, Sunday night, 7 o'clock Eastern. Caution out on the track.
All the way on the apron.
Something we had been expecting possibly for a few laps.
Blow up
the
yet.
20 car of Joey Logano. Allen appears to have blown up.
So the fourth caution of the race for Joey Logano. 73 laps to go. Leaders all just in with a restart at 90 to go, a minute ago. What are you doing there, champion crew chief?
Well, we're going to come in and get tires and still make one more pit stop.
Anybody get two now?
Possibly. You might see a little strategy. Joe Logano ran 100 laps in practice. That was the third most of anybody. His engine blew up. I know it's 73 laps to go. He probably couldn't have limited that much practice, but put quite a few miles on that engine in practice.
And while we watch what happened to Logano right there, Jamie McMurray had taken his car to the garage area just a few laps ago under the green flag with what looked to be some smoke trailing from behind it.
That's the fifth engine failure in a race for Joe Gibbs Racing this year.
Been a theme. The reason why Denny Hamlin was pushing so hard for them to switch from the in-house engines to the Toyota Racing Development engines that 11 team's been using. Well, Carl Edwards made a run in that short run up to third. Now the caution allows him to erase that 3-second deficit he faced to Tony Stewart. And pit road open there. You see that NASCAR officials signaling when they're kind of pointing down at the pit lane, telling the crew chiefs and the crew members that pit road is open this time.
I think Tony Stewart and his team dictate what everybody else does here as far as coming on to pit road.
Going to see some two-tire stops here, Andy?
I think we'll see some strategy pulled.
But what that is, we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't know.
All right, well, we get to look right away because Matt Kenseth will hit his pit stall very quickly, Dave.
He will indeed, Alan. It'll be a two-tire change for Matt Kenseth. He said, I can't get in the gas. I need rear grip. It over-rotates too much for the guy giving up fourth position. The four-car of Casey Kane gives up second. They were talking about doing a four-tire change and making an air pressure and wedge adjustment for Casey's car. Not enough side bite. Jamie?
Strategy here for the Ford team. Darian said, should we take two? Tony said, I can't make the call. You've got to do it. Two-tire call. That's it. Down and away. Doc?
Right side tires only for Carl Edwards. He's down and away, less than 7 seconds, and they scramble off single file. Jeff Gordon, by the way, also getting two rights only.
Check it out. Strategy and a change on the leaderboard.
Yeah, Edwards, two-tire stop. Stewart's crew off the pit road.
And that 4-tire change for Casey Kane is going to kick him back to 8th position. There it is, by that much. Carl Edwards goes back to the lead. We're happy about that.
I'm getting excited.
Under caution for the 4th time, 71 laps to go at Texas. We go NASCAR nonstop, presented by Nationwide.
Restart's going to be fun.
Doubled up for the restart. 400 miles down, 100 miles to go here at Texas Motor Speedway. Strategy on this most recent round of pit stops, right side tires only. Carl Edwards gets to the lead on the pit stops. Tony Stewart has led the most laps today. He will restart alongside him. The top 2 in the championship, side by side at the front of the field for a restart with 100 miles to go. Updating some other stories on the day. The 18 car being driven today by Michael McDowell after Kyle Busch not allowed to race by NASCAR following up on an incident Friday night in the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series race. 18 car 2 laps down in 31st position today for McDowell. Casey Kane, the first car that changed 4 tires on that pit stop. He was 2nd, he's now 8th.
All them cars in front of you took 2. Thought that might happen. That's a lot of laps on the left, though. We'll see how it goes here. I mean, as beat up as the lefts get looking, I don't know. We'll see. It'll be interesting to find out anyway. Hopefully we made the right call here.
We'll find out. Green flag. Edwards and Stewart up front. Carl Edwards was ready.
He was ready to go, yeah. And that's a good point that Kenny Francis was making about those tires. You know, we heard earlier Carl Edwards wearing out a left rear tire on one of the runs, so this could put a lot on those.
It's for 4th and 5th place. Jeff Gordon trying to get around Marcos Ambrose. Gordon losing some track position on an earlier pit stop when they dropped some lug nuts. Now the strategy to try and regain some track position. And there he goes into 4th.
Yeah, this is really the closest on a restart he's been to the front, so we'll see what he's got for these first 3 that have pretty much dominated the front of the field so far today.
First side-by-side, Kevin Harvick in the 29, working on Casey Kane in the 4. That's for 8th and 9th spots.
Yeah, that comment that we heard from Kenny Francis, the crew chief on that 4 car, it really, I mean, we heard Carl Edwards wearing that left rear tire out in a long green flag run. This is actually going to be the longest. If this goes green, this is going to be the longest he's put on that left side tire. What are they saying, Dave?
Well, or, Andy, he leaves himself that chance. If they do have to stop for fuel one more time, which I think a lot of them will, then he's going to make his 2-tire chance the last pit stop. And the other guys will probably have to put on 4, don't you think?
Yeah, that does position you well for that because it won't be that many laps to the end. And he will be able to do that right side change. If he can get up front and get close enough to these leaders with these 4 tires, that may pay off for him. That's a good idea there, Dave.
Still trying to hang on to that spot. Caution flag is just waved. There is just some debris that has been called in by one of the NASCAR spotters up in turn number 3. And so yellow flag number 5 in this race. After we went a long time without a yellow, we've had a few in kind of short order here.
That worked out good for the wave around cars that last time.
Yeah, sure did.
Guys that took the wave around that got back on the lead lap last time, Regan Smith, Mark Martin, Juan Pablo Montoya, and Ryan Newman, who for the 2nd time today took a wave around and now is back on the lead lap.
Yeah, he was 2 laps down. Ryan Newman was at one point.
And let's also mention, as the officials retrieve the debris, Clint Boyer, free pass on the last caution. Trying to catch up to some of this stuff. Been a lot going on here.
You're a busy man.
Trevor Bayne got the free pass 2 cautions ago, and on this one it's David Ruderman who's going to come back around onto the lead lap.
And the big thing, the significance of all of these cars now, we're going to have 26 once Ruderman gets back on the lead lap, is that if something should happen to one of these front runners, one of these points guys that late in the race, a flat tire or something like that, they're going to lose a lot more positions than what they may have with as many cars as earlier we had a lap down.
Yep. Not with us earlier. This race ran green for a long time. There were 111 laps in this race before the first yellow flag wave. Then we went from lap 111 to lap 201 before we got another caution. Any takers? Denny Hamlin from 14th place. Going to be the first one to come down the pit lane under this caution. We go NASCAR Nonstop, presented by Nationwide. Well, as you saw in NASCAR Nonstop, some pit road contact between Denny Hamlin and Brad Keselowski, damaging both cars. Repairs being affected by both teams.
See, Brad Keselowski's blocked in. He's backing up to try to clear Ryan Newman's car. Backs right into Denny Hamlin as he's coming out of his pit stall.
And then the repairs being made by both teams. Doubled up for the restart. Tony Stewart running second to Carl Edwards. Tony's our in-race reporter today.
Hey, Tony, Dale Jarrett, you got us?
Yeah, man.
I know you're getting ready for the green flag, though. Been a pretty good day for you. How's this car on 2 tires?
It's not quite as good as it is on 4, so we'll just see what we can do here. If I can get the jump on him, I think we can hold him off if we get to the lead here.
Okay, you've had a great day. Thanks for talking with us.
All right, bud.
Working that steering wheel hard.
Yeah, he's getting his tires scuffed up, ready to go.
Staying out under the caution, making sure any little bits of rubber, pieces of oil dry that might be on the track, you get off.
Yeah, the tires on the car now are hot from that last run. They didn't change them, so they're picking up rubber. He's got to get those things cleaned off. You can hear him spinning the rear tires. He's working those front tires in. Real important to get that car and the tires ready to go here.
Because if you're going to race Carl Edwards for the lead, or you're going to go screaming off into turn 1 at 100-something miles an hour, you'd like the tires to grip as well as they can, thank you.
Yes, you're going to go through there almost wide open. You hope.
60 laps to go.
Tony got a good start.
Remember at Martinsville, the outside pass on Jimmy Johnson on the late restart that won Tony Stewart the race.
Man, check out the run Tony got off turn 2.
Pretty good when a man tells you what he's going to do and goes and does it, huh?
Yeah, he passed him on purpose right there.
Stewart to the lead, Edwards second, Kenseth third, Jeff Gordon to fourth on Marcus Ambrose. And for fifth, that's Paul Menard in the 27.
Menard's made a nice comeback today. Getting back on the lead lap now, driving up into the top 5.
They took just right side tires on that pit stop a couple of cautions ago to get some track position.
Yeah, and there comes Casey Kane in that 4 car. He's got 4 fresh tires.
And a big run on Ambrose. Wow.
Ooh, see Ambrose, that got him extremely loose right there. He's hanging on.
Big bubble of air pushed off the nose of that 4 car like a snowplow throwing snow ahead of it.
Yeah, and I should clarify that the 4 cars, 4 fresh tires were from the previous caution. He didn't pit that time, but which are fresher than what all of these cars that he's trying to pass right now as he goes by Ambrose.
That's for 6th place. Now Kevin Harvick comes calling.
I believe that lap led by Tony Stewart right there just clinched that point for the bonus for leading the most laps, if my addition's correct.
Did you carry the one?
I think I carried.
You got me first. Carry the one.
And in a championship where the gap is in single digits and might just be that way all the way down to the final lap of the final race, that 1 bonus point for leading the most laps in this race could be critical.
Yeah, and Tony leads all drivers in the chase in bonus points, so doing what he's got to do to try to win this championship.
There's Jimmy Johnson. Remember we saw him sliding through the grass off turn 4 a little while ago. Johnson running in 12th right now.
Yeah, that slowed down a lot of drivers. They'd take it easy for a while. Jimmy's just trying to come back forward.
Speaking of going forward.
Yeah, I like the position that Casey Kane's in. Other than Tony Stewart leading this race, I really like what they've done here. I think Tony having that track position is going to really pay off, but those 4 tires might really come back to pay off for Casey Kane.
Marcus Ambrose going the wrong direction here. That is 11th place. He's just given up to Jimmy Johnson, and the hands have been busy on the steering wheel of that 9 car.
Oh, wow. Jimmy says, I know what you're fighting there, brother. I spun off. My car off that corner there.
Now, it might be me, but when the left hand crosses over the right hand and you're turning left, in theory,
when I was driving, that never was a good thing.
Unless you got a good follow-through.
How about Tony Stewart? Around the outside of Carl Edwards for that lead.
You know, Tony Stewart has basically wheeled this race car, I think, once it got in the chase to wins and doing as much as he possibly could. Here's our pole sitter trying to come back forward. Greg Biffle, he's up to the 7th spot now.
You know, interesting. We're talking about a lot of guys trying to come back. The lights are on. Track temperature's cooling off. Dale Earnhardt Jr. haven't called his number much today.
No, he got up to like that 12th spot earlier on and kind of rode there for a while. And then he got a set of tires that looked like, man, he was going to wreck at any minute I was watching him. So a nice little comeback. Looks like they've adjusted on this car for him now.
There's a pedaling right there. Jamie, we haven't talked much about Junior today. What have they been talking about down there?
Well, he has been fighting a loose car most of the day, but now it's a little bit tight. And that last caution on 271, they took advantage of it. They actually came down and they pitted to free him up just a bit now that it's cooled off, and that car is coming to life.
All right, so Junior running in 12th spot. There's Greg Biffle picking up a spot on Menard. That's 6th place. And ahead, Jeff Gordon on the move in that 24. 3rd place on Matt Kenseth. And Casey Kane going to try and follow him through.
Yeah, this is certainly a lot more of what we expected to see from Jeff Gordon in the chase.
Matt Kenseth's car really loose right now. Yeah, look at that 4-car go around the bottom.
Jeff Gordon says that the tire combination that NASCAR and Goodyear are using here at Texas has frustrated him. He says it challenges every weakness that I have as a driver. How does a tire challenge a driver's weakness?
First of all, I didn't know he had any weaknesses, but a tire can do that. And I think that has to do with the hardness. He has a hard time getting a feel for what the race car is doing, and then he can tell Alan Gustafson exactly what his race car is doing and what changes he might need to make. And there are times that you just get frustrated as a driver. You feel like that you can't help.
24 car making a nice rally, Doc.
You know, and Jeff said before that final restart a moment ago, or the previous restart, hey guys, we got a really good race car here. He gave the guys on pit road a smile because they knew he had a good car. But you're right about the tire. The same tire that they had in Chicago when Jeff said we just struggled. We couldn't find anything at all on that mile and a half. Started 23rd, finished 24th, and barely ran in the top 20 all day. Here they were loose early, tight, made a couple of minor adjustments, and now Jeff thinks this car has driven it's been all day long and showing it on the racetrack.
To 3rd place for Jeff. Can he run down those top 2?
I think he's going to have to worry about holding off that 4-car for now.
Casey Kane. All those cars you just looked at, all on the lead lap. This is Paul Menard, 27. Martin Truex Jr., 56. Jeff Burton, 31. 8th, 9th, and 10th. Truex, that rally story again, right? He was a lap down earlier.
Yep, kind of coming to life here as this racetrack has cooled down some. Nice to see Martin be able to put some things together at the end of these races. Jeff Burton certainly needs a good run.
Truex Jr. took a wave around under the caution of lap 201 to get back on the lead lap and is making it pay off here. See as low as 31st in the race, but running now in the top 10, though he struggled to get off that corner. Here's Jeff Burton by him. And continuing to roll, Casey Kane in the 4.
Well, you can visibly watch this 4-car, how much faster he is entering and rolling to the center of the corner. See how much he was able to drive it in there? That's those 4 tires right now. There's really been a big advantage for Casey Kane. Oh, Matt Kenseth.
While waving at Jeff Gordon out the window, saying thanks for cutting me a break, hanging on to his race car at 190 miles an hour. 45 laps to go, another round of pit stops to come. When will it happen? Tony Stewart, Carl Edwards, 1 and 2. We go NASCAR Nonstop, presented by Nationwide. The top two in the championship with 3 races to go. Running first and second here at Texas Motor Speedway, 60 miles to go. Tony Stewart and Carl Edwards going toe-to-toe on the track and toe-to-toe for the championship.
NASCAR Sprint Cup Series at Texas is brought to you by Jack and Jill, starring Adam Sandler, in theaters November 11th, rated PG. Papa John's. Earn free pizza fast with double Papa Rewards every weekend, only at papajohns.com. And the 2011 Ford F-150, built Ford tough.
Beautiful sunset here in Fort Worth as the 8th race in the chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup winds to its closing miles. Jeff Gordon with an early move to pit road here, Doc.
Yeah, a moment ago he said, I am done. He lost about 3 or 4 spots on the lap and said, I got to come down, got a left rear. I don't think burnt the left rear off of it. Had a left rear tire issue. The good news is everyone else has to make a pit stop as well. Final stop, still full of fuel, 4 tires. He's away. And now fire on pit road. The gas that they dropped off the car is on fire. And the firemen will run out there and put it out. Fortunately, everyone is away.
All right, Doc, thanks. So Jeff Gordon with the early move to pit road. Now on those fresher tires, he's going to be really fast out there, but he's got a deficit to make up by pitting under the green. We'll see how that all balances out as Gordon gains time right now against these guys with older tires.
Yeah, he's got the same problem that all these cars that just took 2 tires the last pit stop that they made. These cars have over 50 laps on their left side tires now, and that's more than they've had all day. Here comes Gordon Johnson.
Gordon leading a charge to pit road that starts here, Dave.
And they're all going to come. Matt Kenseth just reporting that he's going to be coming in. Jimmy Johnson's car is still a little loose off. Chad Knaus told me it's about where it was before the spin. Not the best today. They'll put their 4 tires on now, Vince.
The 9 car of Marcos Ambrose has been in the top 5 most of the day, but backwards on this last run. It's a little bit too loose off, so they're going to make an air pressure adjustment, Dave.
And the 17 car of Matt Kenseth is on pit road, that very first one in. They will make a 4-tire change and an air pressure adjustment. Matt telling his crew chief, tighten me up on exit. On the exit of the corner, he was too loose.
All right, Dave, second place has just changed hands. Casey Kane around Carl Edwards. A second and a half behind leader Tony Stewart. 35 to go, Jamie.
And you see Dale Jr. in once again, going to free that up, wipe the grill, 4 tires, solid stop, 12.8 seconds, way to get it done. Vince?
The 29 of Kevin Harvick coming in, making a last-moment air pressure adjustment. It's going to be right sides only, says crew chief Gil Martin. Harvick said, we got to do something. I'm a little bit too loose, but tight through the center. It's a 2-tire change for Kevin Harvick.
All right, Andy, Tony Stewart. All right, get back to that in a second. Jamie?
And David Reagan, who started on the front row, slipped back quite a bit, took 4 tires on that last stop, and he went backwards. They took 4 again. They're having issues here. You saw the jack stuck. Extra long stop for David Reagan. Doc?
Carl Edwards coming in will make his final stop. Remember, these left side tires have now been on for 60 laps. 78 coming down. Regan Smith coming in what should be his final stop. Great run for the surprise winner at Darlington. Right side tires on Regan Smith. They will make a 4-tire change as wear and fill it up with fuel. Final stop there. Jamie.
And Tony Stewart, 10 away. The countdown begins. Gives up the lead. They're saying 4 tires here. Of course, he took right sides only last time around. They called for left side wedge. We're going to have to wait and see if they're going to get it done here. They put on the left sides. Nope, no adjustments here for Tony Stewart, Doc.
4 tires for Carl Edwards. It tightened me up just a smidgen here. Final tires. Remember, the left sides have been on for 60 laps. He is down and he will follow the 14 back off of pit road. Dave.
Casey Kane is on pit road. They won't make any chassis adjustments. The car is right about where he wants it. They will make a 4-tire change. So even though they had some of the freshest left side tires, they're going to replace them and hope they have enough time in car to get back to the front.
All right, so now Kane coming down the pit lane at the speed limit. 45 miles an hour while Tony Stewart is up to speed on the track. We'll see how they come together off the exchange of pit stops. Stewart coming to the start-finish line. Kane just exiting the pit lane and beginning to accelerate.
You can see just ahead of Tony Stewart there at the 29 of Kevin Harvick, who took 2 tires on his pit stop. So a little strategy involved there for Kevin Harvick.
I thought that might be an opportunity for Casey Kane, too, but it's just too many laps left. I think Kenny Francis thought that they would be better off with the 4 tires. Their car is really fast right now.
So, Tony Stewart up onto the racetrack ahead of Casey Kane. Jeff Burton is the leader. He has not yet pitted in this cycle. There are Edwards and Kane racing for a spot. What will be second eventually when the cycle of stops runs through.
Yeah, most of these leaders short pitted by a good margin, so some of the guys that haven't pitted yet can stay out for a while if they choose to.
Man, that was close.
Well, that was. I'll tell you, that's a great move by Casey Kane right there to slide back by Carl Edwards. Look at him drive these cars, sliding them around.
Trevor Bayne, his final pit stop. Day certainly hasn't gone like the young man wanted. Thought they might have been able to contend for the win after he won yesterday's NASCAR Nationwide Series race. Edwards with a run on Kane.
Going to kind of depend on where Kevin Harvick goes here. Casey Kane might be able to use him as a pit.
And that is for position, by the way, with Harvick. That's 10th, 11th, 12th. As we're in the middle of a cycle of green flag pit stops. Looked like Carl had his hands full there.
I tell you, they're really driving. We talk about them driving the wheels off these things a lot. They are doing it right now. This is some of the fastest laps they've run all day.
All right, so let me just set the situation. We've seen about a half a dozen cars not pit yet. Jeff Burton, Ryan Newman, Mark Martin, Brian Vickers, David Ruderman. Add to that half dozen. Brad Keselowski, Denny Hamlin, and Kurt Busch. Those 8 have not pitted yet in this cycle. Then Tony Stewart in 9th place. Followed by Kane, Edwards, Harvick, Kenseth, and Jeff Gordon. Greg Biffle just getting back on the lead lap by passing Jeff Burton a second ago. Biffle on the fresher tires has already made the pit stop. When are we going to see Jeff Burton on the pit lane and these other guys that haven't stopped yet?
It'll be pretty soon. Jeff Burton slowed down quite a bit. He was 32 seconds on the last lap, which is quite a bit slower than these other top runners.
And at this point, on the older tires, he's just left to hang out there as long as they can and hope to get a caution.
Yeah, you played your strategy now, so can't just jump in and change it all of a sudden in mid-cycle, can you?
Well, that's the thing. You know, if he pits now, he's going to go way, way back. And if the caution would happen to come out now, you know, he would have the lead, but he would still have to make the pit stop.
Ryan Newman was 2 laps down earlier in this race. Took a wave around twice after he had to pit. After a green flag stop again for a vibration. He's come back from 2 laps down. Big week this week for that team. New sponsor, going to be on board that car for a number of races next year, Quicken Loans.
Yeah, big help to Stewart Haas Racing there, signing on a new sponsor that hadn't been involved in the sport, so nice for Ryan Newman and for Tony Stewart and that whole organization.
And Mark Martin up to 3rd, again, not yet having made the pit stop in this last cycle. When will we see the 5 car on the pit lane? Last stopped at lap 271 for Mark. How about the leader, Dave?
Well, you guys already talked about the strategy that they've laid out. This is the only thing they can do. But it's a shame because they've driven this car into the top 10 after taking a wave around earlier and then having to repair it. He hit the front end so hard at one point that they broke the ductwork away from the radiator. It was overheating. They got it partially repaired, and he's been able to drive all the way up to and then stay out and lead this race.
But needing another pit stop to make it to the finish. Jeff Burton, the 2-time winner here at Texas Motor Speedway. Jimmy Johnson trying to get back on the lead lap by passing that 31 car. Johnson in 18th spot right now. Math in my head here. Is that 31 car going to try and make a run to the finish on fuel as slow as he appears to be coming off some of these corners?
Yeah, he's definitely slowed up a lot.
He pitted last at lap 271. We restarted there with 60 laps to go.
Be a stretch, but we've seen that type of thing happen right here before at Texas.
That'd be interesting. Meantime, handling conditions coming to or away from various competitors as the sun is set and the track temperature is cooled.
Yeah, you can see it's 10 degrees less than when we started. And just in the last little while, it's come down about 6 degrees. Hey, Jeff Burton has backed off quite a bit. I mean, there may be a possibility he could make it, and that might be what they're thinking about here.
Dave, what are they saying?
Going for it. Yep, that's what they're doing. They're rolling those dice. Didn't Eddie Gossett hand out some dice this weekend at the Texas Motor Speedway? This is a place where you should gamble.
Yeah, big fuzzy dice, as a matter of fact, yes.
Okay, here's what he's got. He's got about a 16-second lead over Tony Stewart, who's one of the leaders that pitted, did make a pit stop. There's some other cars in between Burton and Tony Stewart. I don't know if all of them or any of them can make it as well.
That's 39. Do we need to race him? He's going to try to do it too. He's second there.
There it is. Ryan Newman is second. Looking back for Tony Stewart. It is 15 seconds from Jeff Burton to Tony Stewart. Tony, the first of those who had been leading the race and just made the round of pit stops.
Yeah, Tony's only beating him about 6 or 7 tenths a lap right now, which obviously wouldn't translate into enough time to catch Jeff Burton.
Now, if Burton makes it, he'll be able to beat Tony Stewart. These cars have stayed out, like Burton and Ryan Newman, Mark Martin, they slipped in under that last caution and got fuel. And that's how they had an extra 10 laps, and they were able to even think about making this work.
Right, at 271 when they stopped. There's Carl Edwards. Edwards running one spot behind Tony Stewart on the racetrack. Casey Kane right behind Edwards. Kane in 11th at the moment. Well, it's going to be interesting to see if Burton can stay in front of Newman for the lead while we look back to Matt Kenseth running in 12th position. All these cars having stopped under the green a little bit ago. Greg Biffle next in line, showing 13th. All right, there's the lead. Ryan Newman, same fuel schedule as Jeff Burton.
You don't know how much Burton has backed off to try to save fuel. He may want to try to bump it up a little, see if he can hold Newman off. But will that make him run out of fuel?
Now, Jeff, 140.
So, 15 to go. Ryan Newman to the lead. Not quite, but almost.
Just had Michael McDowell trying to get on pit road and miss pit road, locked the brakes up really slow. Denny Hamlin is on pit road.
I'll tell you, this can be a stretch for these cars because Brad Keselowski went 57 laps at Kansas, the same size track, to win there and was just about out of fuel. And Harvick went the same amount, 57 laps at Charlotte earlier this year.
Denny Hamlin, one of those who had not stopped yet, he's in.
To finish that up, it's 63 laps that Newman and Burton would have to go to make it.
That moves Tony Stewart up to 7th. Stewart 11 seconds behind now. This for the lead between Newman and Burton. Now let's talk about this saving fuel thing just for a second in a little further detail. These guys all know, the crew chiefs and the engineers, the mile per gallon that they get at a certain lap time. They have that all calculated out. So Burton and Newman are trying to race for the lead, know the pace they have to run to make it to the finish on fuel, and watch back to Tony Stewart and make sure they can stay in front of him. There's Michael McDowell in the 18 car. And there was that missed entry to pit road.
Missed the commitment cone.
So McDowell back underway and running 3 laps down in 32nd spot in his sub for Kyle Busch today. So all those things at play here in this whole scenario of how this is going to finish, Andy.
Well, the problem you got right here is these two guys are racing each other pretty hard, and they're going to run each other out of fuel if they keep running that hard. It'd be nice if you had a little bit of lead to play with where you could back off.
Brian Vickers, one of the guys who had not stopped yet, in. With a lot of laps to go.
Yeah, what I've seen from Ryan Newman here is once he got past Jeff Burton, he's back down a little bit on his lap time. Not a whole lot, but I think he just got by enough and is able to slow down. But his owner, Tony Stewart's coming pretty hard. Tony's gotten by Brad Keselowski and moved up to the 4th spot now. Still over 9 seconds back of the leader, Ryan Newman.
All clear and clear to pit road.
Newman's going to pit here.
Okay, now Jeff Burton can slow up a little bit. If he'd have known that, he could have slowed up a long time ago if he knew that Newman was going to make a pit stop.
And Newman's not going to be the only one to pit. 10 laps to go. Newman comes in, followed by Mark Martin. And let's cover the leader stop, Doc.
Yeah, after losing a couple laps for an unscheduled pit stop for a loose wheel, Newman stayed out and milked it as much as they could. They had to pit this lap, but they would run out of gas. It was going to be gas only. They decided to go ahead and put right side tires on him while he's here, down and away.
So that leaves Jeff Burton as the only guy to not pit. Dave?
With Luke Lambert down here, Luke and the engineers have been going back and forth. Luke, how close is it going to be?
Going to be really close. We just hope we saved a number of the course of this run to make it work.
And you fixed your race car, too.
Yeah. We had a long day. We've had to find a lot, but Caterpillar Chevrolet team's worked hard.
They've worked hard to be a great time to see Jeff Burton get his 3rd win at this Texas Motor Speedway, Alan.
He's got about 7 seconds to play with right here. He could slow up quite a bit. He hasn't slowed up as much as I would like to see him if I was Luke.
8 laps to go. That was the gap. Burton to Stewart. 6.4 seconds.
He's back now to losing only about a half a second. He had a few laps there to where he was losing 9/10 to a full second. Let Tony close way down, but Tony's got a lot of lap traffic to deal with, so his lap times aren't quite as good now.
6-second lead, 8 laps to go. He can give up a lot more than he is giving up.
That's what I said. I'd want to give it all up if I could, just to make sure I could make it. So not all of it. We'll give up maybe up to a second.
Sorry, Andy. Stewart Edwards back-to-back on the racetrack. 2nd and 3rd. Terrific championship that these two have engaged in. All the fun words after the Martinsville win by Stewart last week and here at Texas, and yet they're running 2nd and 3rd on the racetrack. One of the other chasers, Brad Keselowski, on pit road late, Doc.
Yeah, by far the best run he has ever had in his young career here in Texas. Brad Keselowski coming in 2 right side tires, going to get 1 can of fuel to make it these final 7 or 8 laps, guys.
That'll be pretty costly there.
Yeah, I think this is pretty slim chance this 31's going to make it to the end. They're taking a big gamble, but hey, they don't have anything to lose. There's Kim Burton, his wife.
Do the math for me. Do the math for me.
Oh, she's nervous.
Too far, man. We get above a half. I'm out.
Oh, that's it. Not even close. 5 laps to go.
Come on in here. We're going to splash it off.
No, just doing the numbers. It just didn't make it.
5 to go and past the pit entry, and he's got to coast all the way around the racetrack if he makes it back.
Yeah, now it becomes Tony Stewart there. With Carl Edwards, you see 3 cars in between them.
So, Tony Stewart back to the lead. 4 laps away from another win. A man who hadn't won all season long until the chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup started. Said at one point, we shouldn't even make the chase. We'll just be taking up the spot.
Check this out.
Carl Edwards.
That was a close call for Carl.
Boy, it sure was, and took away any chance he probably had of trying to run Tony Stewart down.
There's Regan Smith there with Carl. Stewart dominating this race. He has spent 170 of 331 laps out in front. There was a race earlier this season where Tony dominated and lost. It was at Las Vegas, the 3rd race of the season. Strategy late. Stewart went from dominating to somehow losing out to Carl Edwards. The only race all season Edwards has won.
I'll tell you what, when this chase started, he made his mind up he was going to win it. And I don't think anybody can stop him right now.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one that didn't see him winning 4 of the first 8 races in the chase, right?
I didn't see that.
Okay, I'm just checking. I didn't think a lot of people saw that, but boy, how dominating has this been? It's going to be twice he's been back-to-back victories in the chase if he can hold on here for a couple of laps.
And Kurt Busch on pit road with a late stop. The white flag flying for Tony Stewart as he comes off of turn number 4, 1 lap away from victory.
White flag here, white flag. Bring it home.
Stewart started this championship with a win at Chicagoland, backed it up the next week with a win at New Hampshire, then had the terrible race at Dover where he finished 25th. Not all that impressive at Kansas, 15th, but then 8th at Charlotte, 7th at Talladega, the winner at Martinsville last week, and a dominator today. He'll gain ground, not a ton, as Carl Edwards is going to finish second. But with his 4th win in 8 tries in his bid for the championship, Tony Stewart takes the checkered flag at Texas. Carl Edwards finishes second, and the championship goes on to its final 2 races with the top 2 separated by 3 points. 3 positions on the racetrack.
It's going to be fun.
How good is that, though? With all the talk and everything that happened.
Great job, guys. Awesome pit stop at the end. That did it, man.
All week, these drivers have talked a little fun back and forth, and they come out and do it on the racetrack, first and second. That's the way you go about winning championships.
That's racing for a championship.
That's it.
Yeah.
Both of them.
Another win for Tony Stewart and his race team today, Jamie.
Darian Grubb is crew chief, confident all weekend long, and you told me the strength of your driver was adjusting to change. You did that today on the pit box. How did you guys get it done?
Everybody in the whole crew just did an awesome job. This obviously Bumbo 1 team is an incredible bunch of guys. There's no quit in them. That's 4 out of 8. Let's go for 2 more.
All right, they are confident. We'll be in victory lane. We'll talk to the man, Tony Stewart, Alan.
All I can think is, wow. Yeah, and I want to say also, that's as much for Carl Edwards running second, and these 2 guys, after the words after Martinsville, and after they came to the track here in Texas, and there were billboards in town picturing the 2 of them going man-to-man for the title, and the boxing gloves that the promoter Eddie Gossage was toting around, and the robes, the boxing robes, for these 2 slugging it out for the title.
That's one thing to put it out there and throw the smackdown. Tony Stewart backed it up.
Yeah. Now, I know the checkered flag just fell, guys, but let's not forget the big unknown of Phoenix Raceway next week with the reconfigured track and new pavement there. Anything could happen.
And I think race fans know that because they've sold out the grandstands at Phoenix.
Glad we got good seats.
And they have some hillside seating there on the desert available. It's going to be a great race. Another smoke show at Texas. Tony Stewart, his 4th win of 2011, tied for the most this season. He didn't even get his first until the championship chase began. We go NASCAR Nonstop, presented by Nationwide. Fireworks in air at Texas Motor Speedway after the conclusion of today's 500-miler, won by Tony Stewart, with his rival for the title, Carl Edwards, running in second. The championship began at Chicagoland. Stewart winless all season, scored the victory. Back-to-back, he went at New Hampshire, and it was on. Then after the wild and woolly Sunday a week ago in Martinsville, where Stewart came out on top, he said,
"You better be worried, that's all I got to say. He isn't going to have an easy 3 weeks."
And he's not making it easy, as the very next week, Stewart beating Edwards to the checkered flag here at the Texas Motor Speedway. And our Goodyear winning moment as Tony came down the pit lane. Tony said, that's the way it's supposed to be. And Carl said, it's going to be fun. Well, off to Napa Victory Circle, where Tony Stewart has rolled in for a 4th time in 8 weeks.
Tony getting some water. Hands are shaking, trembling. What a race it was. 4 wins. Unbelievable. This is the second time this car has been to victory lane in this chase. Everybody is holding their breath, Tony, waiting to celebrate with you for the 4th time. And note, it is Russ Wallace. Lost his life this week, and he is a true champion. It's on the door, racing for him as well. Here he comes. Getting unhooked. Dominated the race today. Got all the bonus points he could. Brought this championship within 3 points. Tony Stewart is your winner. All the pageantry, the confetti, Eddie Gossett doing a great job here. Tony, the guys in the booth said, you made up your mind. You're going to win this championship. How much of it is mind over matter at this point?
I told you guys that last week. Nobody listens to me when I talk anymore.
Oh, we listen.
So, no, I mean, we're set on it, man. I mean, this is just the way it's going to be. So, I got, this is for the Wallace family and Mr. Hendrick and his wife. After last week, they had a long week, and had a buddy that passed away when we were in Charlotte, Jim Duffer, a real close friend of mine, and I forgot him last week, and I didn't want to forget about him this week. But, just do not count us out of this thing. I can tell you that. We did everything we could do today. So just got to thank Office Depot and Mobile One and Coca-Cola and Chevy and Mac Tools and Burger King, Tornadoes, U.S. Army, House Automation. I normally don't even make it that far in the list, so I did pretty good tonight.
Tony, take us inside that race car. All the calls, when to come, when to take 2, when to make adjustments. You guys stuck with it. You guys were a true team, you and Darian Grubb today. How good of a job did he do?
Darian did an awesome job. I mean, it's hard to know what to do from the car, and he's made the right calls the whole chase, and it was like we told DJ on that restart, if I could get the restart on him and get ahead of him, I thought we could stay there. So that was the difference, and the guys had an awesome pit stop at the end. I mean, if they wouldn't have had that pit stop, we wouldn't be here.
Tony, nobody has ever gone winless in the regular season and come out and won the championship. You are on your way. 3 points within Carl Edwards. What do you have to say to your competition this week?
I don't think we have to say anything. I think our performance today spoke for itself, so he knows already, trust me.
All right, there you have it. 4-time winner in the chase, Tony Stewart. Let's go over to Dr. Jerry Punch.
And still the points leader, but the runner-up today, Carl Edwards. And Carl, first of all, what did you say to Tony when you stuck your head in the window when he came by?
I just told him good job. He did a great job today. Those guys stepped it up. And I'm proud of my guys for hanging on and for still having the points lead. At the end of the day, we're going to the final 2 races. And although we'd have loved to have won today in our Aflac Fusion, to be 3 points ahead and then to have the 3rd and 4th place guys farther behind, it looks like it's truly going to come down to Tony and I, and that's going to be a lot of fun.
Where'd you guys come up a little bit short today? I know you battled some right front tire issues, but late in the race looked like you had a car that was going to be able to stay in front of the 14.
Well, I think Tony said it there, that last restart. I think if I could have stayed in front of him, I'd have been able to get him. The restart before that, he spun his tires, and I felt really good about that one, and he timed it just right on that last restart, hung on my door. But, I give those guys credit. They've done a good job. But now we get to kind of pull out all the stops here. Our Aflac team, we've been hanging on. We're leading these points. We get to pull out all the stops for these last 2 races, and there couldn't be a better place to finish it than Homestead. So I think folks ought to stay tuned. It's going to get pretty exciting, and I'm just glad Tony and I are out there and we can race for this thing.
All right, Carl Edwards. And by the way, as he came down pit road, he told his crew on the radios, guys, keep your heads up. Remember, we are still the points leaders, and they got 2 to go. Alan?
Well, let's look at those standings. With 2 races remaining in the chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup, Stewart and Edwards, virtual tie at the top of the stack. And as was mentioned by Carl, they gained a little ground on Kevin Harvick, Matt Kenseth, and Brad Keselowski today, distancing themselves from the pack. Mathematically eliminated Hamlin, Busch, and Newman. But we go down to the final couple of races with, at this point, a 2-man race for the championship. But again, with Phoenix next week and that unknown element there, I don't know if I'd rule Harvick or Kenseth out or at all. Let's hear from Matt Kenseth, Vince.
Well, Matt did move up 1 spot to number 4, and Alan just posed the question with the unknown of Phoenix next week. You never really know what could happen, but how do you view your position 38 points out in 4th with 2 to go?
not very good, but better than the guys behind me. So, yeah, I mean, it's, for all intents and purposes, unless the 14 and 99 have a disaster at Phoenix, it's kind of a two-man race. But I'm proud of my guys. They did a really great job. We made a lot of adjustments, had great pit stops. I thought Jimmy had a wonderful strategy to get us where we got. We were just off all day compared to how we normally run here, and just could never hit it, honestly, from the first lap to the last lap. We just could never get it the way we needed it to be. So them guys fought hard all day. They gave me everything they had. I gave them everything we had and came home with a top 5. So overall, it was a good day.
Indeed. 4th place today for Matt Kenseth. Dave?
The guy who finished right in front of him, Casey Kane, the best non-chase finisher, 4 out of the last 6 races. And I heard you say, coming in safe for a little side bite, this might have been yours today.
Yeah, we were really close. Had a battle really hard with Tony and Carl, and they're trying to get every point they can. And I wanted to win really bad today. I thought our Red Bull Toyota was right there. Just Tony was a little better at the end, and even throughout most of the race. It was a great race for us. Guys did a great job, and if I had a little more side bite, I think we would have had a shot.
And this team, even with all this uncertainty, Casey, is hanging in there and really doing a great job for you guys.
Yeah, the team, they've been doing it throughout the entire chase. I wish we were in the chase because it's probably been our best time in the whole season. So it's been a lot of fun working with these guys. I'd love to win a race. It's one of our tracks that I thought we could have done it at. And we got 2 more to keep trying. And if not, we'll just keep trying to run these top 5s.
Another top 5 here at Texas, almost his 2nd win. Doc?
And pole sitter Greg Biffle frustrated with a top 5. And Greg, why?
Well, I screwed up there at the end. I slid through the pit box on the green flag stop at the end just by about 4 inches. Had to move it back. It probably cost me a spot or 2 at the end here. But, we're excited with a top 5 run. That's what we needed to do. We wanted to win, but we were so far off. We just started too far off and worked at it. We got it right at the end, but a little too much, a little too late. So it was a good day for us. We learned something, I think, and that'll help us build for next year.
And his hands full early on, but still brought it home with a 5th place finish. Alan?
All right, Doc, thanks. And so we look ahead now to the final 2 weeks of the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series season, and it's on to Phoenix next Sunday afternoon. Newly paved track. They reconfigured some of the corners, particularly that dog leg on the back straightaway, and a lot of drivers think it's going to be a hairy day.
Yeah, they've not only done that, they've also, the new pavement, but they've taken a machine out there to try to rubber in the racetrack, and they've put a lot of rubber down to enhance the racing and widen the groove out. We're going to see how that works, but it's still, like you said, a totally unknown racetrack.
Yeah, just in talking to these drivers, as you were pointing out, Alan, they've made such a sharp turn on the dog leg on the back straightaway, and you kind of go, it's almost like a roller coaster. Down, your car bottoms out, back uphill, so it's going to be interesting to watch, and these drivers are going to have to be aggressive, but they're also going to have to be patient as they try to work rubber into the racetrack.
Got a lot of great things going on. This chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup here on ESPN, and a great run of Monday Night Football games coming up as well. Lights will be on for Bears-Eagles on ESPN's Monday Night Football. That is tomorrow night. It is Jay Cutler and the Bears trying to take an Eagles team looking for its 3rd straight win. Coverage begins at 7 Eastern with Monday Night Countdown served by Applebee's. You can also see the game on Watch ESPN. And talk about Super Bowl champions coming up on Monday Night Football. How about Vikings and the Super Bowl champion Packers? Followed a week later by Tom Brady and the 3-time Super Bowl champion New England Patriots. And then the Giants and the Saints.
Some good games.
That's some quarterbacks there, isn't it? All of those games.
Good run coming up on Monday Night Football involving a lot of Super Bowl champions. Well, it was mid to late August in Michigan when the race was over, and Tony Stewart had a finish on the backside of the top 10 and got out of his car and told Dr. Jerry Punch this.
I'll be perfectly honest. At this point of the deal, if we're going to run this bad, it really doesn't matter whether we make the chase or not, because we're going to be occupying a spot in a chase that somebody else that actually can run for a championship is going to be trying to take, because our stuff's so bad right now that we're wasting one of those top 12 spots right now.
My, how things changed in the course of just a few weeks' time as Tony Stewart went into the championship and has now won 4 of 8. Track promoter Eddie Gossage there, the man who came up with the boxing glove thing.
Well, the biggest, you see how he turned his season around in the chase. I'll tell you just how much he's turned it around. If he wins this championship, he'll have less top 5s than any champion since 1950, even if he gets top 5s the next 2 races.
And the 6-shooter celebration. No surprise Tony chooses the black hat instead of the white hat.
No, not at all. But what a tremendous talent this guy is. You know, we talk about the race team and everything, and it was a line of communication that wasn't there between he and his crew chief and the rest of them there. They got Tony Moore involved. You can see exactly what's happened, but we can't say enough about Tony Stewart. Now, that's not taken away from the other drivers who all have tremendous talent. Carl Edwards, obviously, very much included. But I've said a number of times, Tony Stewart is racer's racer. There might not be any more talented race drivers to drive and win in every type of race car that he's ever been in. And he's showcasing those talents here in the chase.
And showing just how hard he drove for 500 miles at this high-speed track, taking a minute to cool off in the middle of all the celebrations and the photos.
Yeah, he left it all on the racetrack today.
Absolutely. Well, Tony Stewart pulling a Jimmy Johnson, if you will. I thought about that earlier, and now as we look at these numbers, I'm going to actually say it because winning when it counts the most is going to be the theme of this season for Stewart, just like Jimmy Johnson has done in his run to 5 consecutive championships. And, it's going to be probably Stewart who ends that run, Stewart or Edwards who ends that run of 5 consecutive championships for Jimmy Johnson. Jeff Gordon finished 6th tonight, Doc.
And sort of an up-and-down day for Jeff. We're just talking about, given the fact that how this tire setup in the past has not worked for you at Chicago, not a bad effort.
Oh, great effort by our drive-in Hunger Chevrolet. Real proud of everybody. Didn't qualify well. We had to start in the middle of the field, and this place can be tough to move up there. And we moved up right away, and at times we had a car I thought could compete for the win, and with those guys up front there, we got up to about 4th. But I don't know, when that sun went down, it changed for us, and we just couldn't keep up the track conditions and lost a little bit there at the end. But no, compared to the way we ran here earlier in the year, this is almost like a win for us.
Jeff Gordon able to walk away with a smile and a 6th-place finish. Alan?
Doc, thanks. Wrapping up some of the other storylines on the day, we had the championship and Tony versus Carl. Some of the other drivers trying to keep themselves in it. We had 500 fast miles at Texas, and we had the story of Michael McDowell subbing for Kyle Busch in the Joe Gibbs Racing 18 car. After Kyle Busch was parked for the weekend by NASCAR, it was Friday night in the Camping World Truck Series race that Busch and Ron Hornaday in that 33 tangled, racing for position around the lap truck. And after the caution flag came out, Busch exacted this on Hornaday, one of the championship contenders in the Truck Series. NASCAR on Saturday morning, sitting Kyle down for the weekend. Joe Gibbs Racing putting Michael McDowell in that 18 car. And on the day, McDowell scrapped and clawed and finished 33rd, Vince.
Certainly not the way he had hoped to finish today with the opportunity of driving the 18 car. What was the situation throughout the course of the day with the car?
Well, we just started in the back with the driver change. I think we had pretty long green flag runs right out of the gate, so we didn't really get a chance to work on it. And the car was just pretty loose all day long, and yeah, it's unfortunate. We obviously hoping for more and hoping for a big day, but just wasn't meant to be, and gave it all I had, and we just struggled pretty much all day long. And we ran around our teammates there quite a bit, Joey and I, and we just kind of were fighting the same thing, just loose in and loose off all day, and needed a couple cautions so we could work on it. So just not what we were looking for, but grateful for the opportunity and thankful to get a shot at, and just move forward.
Kyle was on the box. Was there any communication on the radio between him and you during the race?
Not that I'm aware of. I don't think I heard him, but hopefully everything will be back in order next week, and we'll get the 18 Toyota Camry back up front.
What have you been told about who will be in the car next week? Will you be in the 18 next week at Phoenix?
Well, I'm not really sure. I don't think NASCAR's made a decision on that yet, so I'll be on standby waiting here.
Thanks, Michael. Alan?
Michael McDowell with a difficult day in that 18 car, finishing again 33rd. Well, as the photos resume in Victory Lane, final thoughts on today's 500-miler in Texas and what you saw.
Well, this is just the way it's supposed to be. Two great race car drivers fighting it out on the track today for the win and for the championship.
Yeah, I can't agree anymore. It's just two terrific race drivers and race teams, not taking anything away from the others who, Casey Kane performed well, Kenseth Biffle, they were all there. Earnhardt Jr. coming home with a good 7th-place finish. But it's about Tony Stewart and Carl Edwards. They're going to settle this, see who's going to take the reign away from Jimmy Johnson.
We're told that is Rick Hendrick that Tony Stewart is on the phone with. Of course, Stewart Haas Racing receiving their technical support from Hendrick Motorsports.
Yeah, we wish Rick well. Hope he gets back to the racetrack real quick.
Yeah, we do that, and it was Rick Hendrick that brought this opportunity to be an owner of this race team to Tony Stewart.
So Stewart and Edwards toe-to-toe in the publicity leading up to the race, toe-to-toe on the racetrack at the finish, and Tony Stewart closes the gap on Carl Edwards in the championship. I can't wait for these final two races to unfold. Looking forward to next week at Phoenix, Arizona. Nicole?
Neither can we. Some very excited people here in the ESPN Pit Studio. Hey, Tuesday night, ESPN Films explores the history of the Alabama-Auburn rivalry, which has reached new heights after each school has won a national championship and had a Heisman winner in the past 2 seasons. ESPN Films Roll Tide Eagle War, Tuesday at 8 Eastern, presented by Buick. The irony of this Tony Stewart run, of course, Jimmy Johnson has won the last 5 championships, but the last driver not named Jimmy Johnson to win a title is the same driver who is currently standing in victory lane, and that is Tony Stewart. And Brad, earlier in the day, you said Tony Stewart is really carrying this team. How much of that was what we saw on the track today?
I don't think it was as much. I think his team really responded very, very well. Darren Grubb had a great game plan. They stuck to it. Where I was talking about was when they went through some tough spots, when they were coming to Martinsville, and places they hadn't run very well. Tony had to do the majority of the work. But today we saw a great team effort out of that Stewart-Haas race team. They look very solid from stem to stern. Boy, they are a heavyweight contender without question, Rusty.
Well, Brad, we talked about Mr. Consistency.
Yeah.
Carl Edwards
Yeah.
finished his second again. I mean, the guy hasn't lost anything. He's right on Tony Stewart's bumper. You know, these championship runs are incredible because year after year we see the two guys racing each other, can't get rid of each other, and now they're bumper to bumper. Now, one thing we always also talked about in Countdown, who can run good that's not in the chase? Casey Kane, another top run, finishes third today. Tell you what, if he was in a chase, he'd be strong. Yeah.
So much talk about the upcoming race in Phoenix, a bit of an unknown, but when the track rubbered in after practice there, when they had the test, guess who was P1? Tony Stewart. NASCAR Now will have a complete wrap-up of today's race tonight on ESPN2, 10 o'clock Eastern Time, and then tomorrow, a recap of the weekend, Monday afternoon, 2:30 Eastern on ESPN2. We are back next weekend from Phoenix, the NASCAR Nationwide Series, Saturday at 3 o'clock Eastern on ESPN2, and of course, Sunday, can Tony Stewart do it for a 5th time? See during the Sprint Cup Series race, 2 o'clock Eastern on ESPN. Sports Center coming up next. Congratulations once again, his 4th win in the chase. Tony Stewart. This has been a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports.